Marcia Lambert is suing her mother's neighbor, Tammy Kedward, for vandalizing her car and punching her in the nose. Tammy claims Marcia was having an affair with her husband.
All rise. This is case number 428 on the calendar in the matter of Lambert versus Kedward. All right, you're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat, please.
Miss Lambert, you were having a romantic relationship with the defendant's husband.
Yes, Your Honor.
I assume this was the husband.
Yes, Your Honor.
This was about a year ago?
A little over a year, yes, ma'am.
Miss Kedward lost it with you one day, came to where you were staying, and assaulted you.
Yes, Your Honor.
She admits that she assaulted you. She also admits that she pled guilty to a simple assault, and she received a fine. Her defense to your action for damages for both your medical bills and your pain and suffering is that you weren't injured. She is counterclaiming for her medical bills, she says, because you've caused her a lot of stress. When did you meet Miss Kedward's husband?
About July 9th of 2005.
Where?
At my mother's house.
What relationship does he have with your mother?
They're the next-door neighbors to my mom.
Were they both living together at the time?
Yes, they were.
Well, when did you start a relationship with Mr. Kedward?
After he told me that he had asked Tammy for a divorce.
But they were still together?
Sort of, kind of.
They were still living under the
They were
same
living,
roof?
yes.
Big mistake on your part. Big. When did you start the relationship?
What exact date?
Yeah.
That it turned romantic?
Yes.
Was August 28th of 2005.
So it didn't take long. Now, when did Miss Kedward assault you?
On August 31st.
Tell me about it.
I was over visiting my mother. My car was parked in the back driveway. She came over and spray painted my car with some obscenities and bright orange paint. I saw her do it. We went back inside to call the police. She knocked on the front door, asked me to come outside. My mother came outside with me. She was yelling all kinds of profanities. And
That's not true.
And I was standing between her and my mother tried to explain some stuff to her, and I was looking at my mother. She reached over, grabbed the back of my hair, yanked me on the ground. She jumped on top of me, punched me, blood went everywhere. Meanwhile,
Punched you where?
in the nose, and then punched me again in the cheek. Meanwhile, my mother managed to pull her off of me, and my 82-year-old grandmother was standing on the porch calling the police.
And you were arrested?
No.
Taken into custody?
No.
Did you press charges?
Yes, I did.
Okay, Miss Kedward. Why don't you tell me what happened on the 31st of August?
I drove up from work. I got out of the car, and she came out of her mother's house and said
That is a
something.
lie, Your Honor.
Listen to me. I cut her off when she interrupted you. Don't speak until she's finished. Go ahead.
I got out of the car, and she came out of the front door and said something that I didn't understand what it was that she said. Nevertheless, she said something. And I just went inside, and I called my husband, told my husband that she was saying something to me.
But you didn't know what?
I didn't know what. It was
Well,
something.
why would you, just a second, Miss Kedward, why would you call your husband if she said something that you didn't understand?
Because I had found out 3 days prior that there was something going on between them.
Okay, did you confront your husband with it?
Yes.
And what did he tell you?
He told me the truth. He told me that they were having a relationship, but that it was more as a friend relationship, that he didn't say that it was not intimate. He just told me that basically they had been doing a lot of talking on the phone.
So when you came home on the 31st and you claim Miss Lambert said something to you, called your husband, and your husband said what?
He said, look, I don't know what's going on. Why don't you just go over there and talk to her about it, and y'all figure it out, and then you call me.
Is that
and
what
tell
you
me
said
the
to her?
truth."
Why don't you just go over there and ask her? Just that's either a yes or no.
Yes.
That was the first time that I ever thought of going over there.
So your cheating husband tells you to go over to the woman's house and to talk it out with her.
Yes.
And you'd listen to him.
Well, it's not that I listened to him. It's more that I thought, go over there. Sounds like a great idea. Why don't I just go over there and find out exactly what she said? And it was probably not the greatest decision in the world, but
Well,
it
first thing that you
happened.
did, you went over and you sprayed her car because that you paid for, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you painted her car before you went to ask her
Correct.
what she had said that you didn't hear.
Right.
And then what happened?
I went over and
You sprayed her car.
I sprayed her car, went back inside and...
Back inside where?
My house.
What happened to speaking to her and about finding out what happened?
That was after.
So then you came out again, worked up a really good mad.
I was infuriated, to say the least.
Fine. So you came
I
out.
had asked her numerous times, very nicely, please leave my husband alone.
Why didn't you ask him?
I asked him.
So,
but
and
the
what did he
fact
say?
She was the instigator.
Stand up. How tall are you?
6'3",
How much do you weigh?
260,
What do you do for a living?
mechanic.
Strong?
I guess so.
Can you walk around?
Yes.
You can walk away from her, can't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Sit down. Get what I mean? Shh. Get what
Yes,
I mean?
ma'am, I do. And
Yeah, listen, there's only one person that owes you the responsibility and the respect and has taken a vow.
You're exactly right.
That's him,
You're right.
not her.
I felt like if she had any compassion or any feeling that she would have backed off and she would have had respect, at least for my child.
He's
And
supposed to have respect for your child,
I understand that.
not her. He.
I truly believe that he did make a bad decision.
Right. But
She
so why
was
did you
the
go
one-
over? So you went over there, you assaulted her, and you lost it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, then you have to suffer for that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You say I'm strong physically. What about mentally when you have a woman like this calling you all the time and not leaving you alone?
You don't really want an answer to that question, sir.
And later today,
You have a car now, Miss Ensler?
Do I have a car?
That's my question. Do you have a car now?
Yes, I have a car now.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Marcia Lambert claims her mother's neighbor, Tammy Kedward, owes for spray painting vulgarities onto her car and punching her in the face. Tammy claims Marcia was sleeping with her husband. She is countersuing for emotional distress.
Okay, Miss Kedward, what kind of consequence did the criminal justice system impose when you pled guilty to assault?
I had a fine of $341 and a Class C misdemeanor.
Tell me about the surgery that you had 3 months later.
I had actually 2 surgeries to try to correct. I was having trouble breathing through the right side of my nose.
Can I
Can
see
I
the
add
medical report?
something,
Yes,
Your
ma'am.
Honor?
Yeah.
She told my husband, he asked her the next day after the assault, "Are you okay?" And she told him, "It's no big deal. The same thing happened to me about a year ago when a girl hit me in a bar."
Okay.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
Shh, just a second. Let's say that's true. What difference does it make?
So what's to say if she had any surgeries that it wasn't to correct what had
I don't know what
happened
she
then?
wants.
It's possible it was. That
I
doesn't
don't-
leave
I'm
you.
not sure
That doesn't.
exactly what she
Shh,
wants.
quiet. That doesn't let you off the hook.
I
She
understand.
doesn't have to sue for any medical expenses. She can just sue for pain and suffering.
I understand.
Good. Okay, so the first study date in the emergency room was September 1st, and it did say previous surgical changes are noted. Okay, so you had previous surgeries in your nose. Is that right?
From 92.
Okay, good. Now, after this happened on August 31st, did you continue a relationship with Mr. Kedward?
Yes, I did.
For how long?
It actually ended August 1st of 2006.
I don't think that's true, Your
Yeah,
Honor.
that's a bunch of bull.
No, you were at my mother's house.
Shh, listen to me. Whether it lasted 9 months or 10 months or 12 months, it doesn't make any difference. It lasted beyond that. Was Mr. Kedward living with his wife during that time?
He went back to her the end of November of 2005.
Okay, but you continued the relationship
Right.
with him
Right,
months after that.
right.
Not smart. What was he telling you all this time?
Just that he wasn't sure what he wanted and that they had a lot to work out if it was going to work and that he still loved me and he always would.
Well, Miss Lambert, why did you continue the relationship with him, madam?
It's not the first time she's done
I-
this. I'm sorry.
Takes 2 to tango.
Yes, ma'am.
His feet work in both directions. If he's back with you and sweet-talking her, that's not a good
Thing about it is, Your Honor, you say I'm strong physically. I'm assuming that's what you're asking. You know, what about mentally when you have a woman like this calling you all the time and not leaving you alone? Yay. Hey.
You don't really want an answer to that question, sir.
Well-
You don't want an answer to that question, Mr. Kedward.
When I asked Miss Lambert to leave my husband alone, my words to her were, "For God's sakes, Marcia, I live next door to your mother. Please just stop."
She used very bad judgment.
She told me that she would be living next door to her mother.
Miss Kedward.
That's a lie.
She used very bad judgment, especially after he came home in November.
He never
To live with
really
you.
left home.
Don't tell me he never really left home. Stop moving around. You're making me seasick. Still.
Yes, ma'am.
He exercised very bad judgment. He's trying to tell me is he may be strong physically, but mentally he's mush. That's just an excuse. What he's trying to say is, how can I withstand the wiles of Jezebel? That's ridiculous. If
That
you
was,
bought it,
that was not what I
quiet.
was saying.
Quiet. There are all kinds of temptations in this world, madam. And you hope that when you marry somebody, that they're going to be able to withstand the temptations. And if they can't, it's their fault. It's not somebody else's fault. In any event, she's suing you for $4,000.
Yes, ma'am.
That, she said, represents her medical bills. You are clearly responsible for that. I want to hear about your counterclaim. You have 1 minute.
I went to the hospital that night and was in the hospital for 2 days following. I was extremely stressed out over the whole situation. I asked her repeatedly to leave my husband alone. She told me she would do what she wanted to do, when she wanted to do it, and I lost it. And I have to admit that
I'm talking about your
I
counterclaim.
went to the hospital, and I was there for 2 days because of the immense stress that this, I don't even want to call her a woman, has put me through, that she continues to put me through to this day.
What about him? Why don't you sue him?
I married him for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in front of God, in front of all of our friends. And it's my choice to forgive him, and we have been through counseling.
Perfect. Listen to me. He's the one that owes you the responsibility of doing the right
paid
thing.
Me.
Doesn't she owe us to leave us alone?
I have.
Shh.
Excuse me?
Excuse me? Outside. Put him out.
Come on, man.
Okay.
Can I add one
gonna,
thing?
Yeah, sure.
I was under so much stress from the immoral actions of this person that I suffered a miscarriage. My child has had to be in counseling. I have had a lot of issues because of her, and to this day.
Because of them.
Yes, ma'am.
Because of them.
She instigated it.
Because you don't get it. You have to put it in your head. He owes you the responsibility of doing the right thing. She doesn't. He has a contract with you, moral contract and a legal contract. He violated the contract, and I would have very little sense of an obligation to mitigate your damages if Miss Lampert did not continue the relationship after November, when she knew that the two of you were trying to work things out. Miss Lampert fully understood that. From November until, she says, August of 2006, she continued a relationship with him. That's going to hurt you, Miss Lampert, because then you knew that what you were doing was interfering with a relationship, and there is a cause of action. It's a cause of action in common law called alienation of affection. That means you are contributing to alienating the affection of her husband, and you know what that's going to cost you? $4,000. So I rule in your favor on your lawsuit in the amount of $4,000. And I rule in your favor on the counterclaim in the amount of $4,000. Neither one of you are getting anything. That's it. Goodbye.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
My husband was at fault for what he did.
I was too gullible to understand and see it then.
I can't help the fact that she went totally psycho.
She continued to try to alienate our marriage.
No, he continued to see me. On August 1st of 2006, he came to my mother's house at lunchtime, and we had a luncheon.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Mooney versus Enslin. Step forward, please.
Ian Mooney is suing his ex-girlfriend, Erin Enslin, for money owed on a lease for a Mitsubishi Eclipse. Erin says the lease is Ian's responsibility.
Mr. Mooney, this is your former girlfriend. You leased a car together. You got another car. Miss Enslin said that she would take over the lease payments on the car. She did. You broke up. She took the car with her. She drove the car for a considerable period of time. The lease was about to be up. The payoff was too much. She said, you can have the car back. I don't want it. You were forced to pay the payout on the lease, which, according to your complaint, was about $5,000. Miss Enslin says it was your car. It's your problem. That's your defense.
Yes.
When was the car leased?
October 6th of 2001, and it was leased by myself and Erin.
Okay, and how long did you drive the car together?
until, I believe, February of '04. Aaron had found employment, and basically we agreed that I would get another car in my name, and Aaron would take over the Eclipse and make the payments.
And you did that?
Yes.
For how long?
The lease was up 2006, October. I called him a few times a couple months before saying that I couldn't afford the car. It was really breaking me. So obviously there was no way I was going to be able to pay it off. And he just refused to take it off of me.
Well, but you had an agreement with him, Miss Enslin.
Yeah, as long as I'm driving the car, I'll pay for it. There were times where I called him and said, I don't want it. I don't want to drive it. It was never discussed of bringing back the lease and me paying it off.
Well, what did you expect to happen?
I'm not even on the lease.
Miss Enslin.
I'm a co-signer for the loan.
Correct.
I'm not on the title of the car. It's
but
not
you
my
are
car.
co-signer on the loan, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, you had this car in total how long, sir?
The full lease, 5 years between the two of us. Erin had said that she had no intention of keeping the car, yet I have proof
I believe she had intention of keeping the car as long as it was just like a
basically,
lease. I'm
sorry.
speaking, Mr. Mooney. I believe that she had the intention of keeping the car and paying for it until it was no longer advantageous for her. You have a car now, Miss Enslin?
Do I have a car?
That's my question. Do you have a car now?
Yes, I have a car now.
What kind of car do you have?
I have a Dodge Spirit.
What year?
94.
Where did you get it from?
My parents.
Your parents gave it to you as a gift?
Yes.
When did they give it to you as a gift?
October of last year.
So at about the same time that you said, I can't afford these payments anymore.
At the same time the lease was up for his car.
The same time the lease was up on a car on which you were a co-signatory?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Can I please see the payout?
This didn't become an issue until there was damage to the car, and basically she'd gone over on the mileage.
How was the car damaged? Miss Enslin, you don't know. How was the car damaged?
There's a scrape on the side of the car.
How did it happen?
I hit something with it.
Why didn't you fix it?
Because it happened right before the lease was up. And his girlfriend at the time was actually looking into buying it, and her dad owned a garage, so there was a point where we thought that they were going to fix it and buy it and just take it off of whatever she paid for it.
Who do you live with?
My boyfriend.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm an assistant.
Assistant what?
Assistant to a businessman.
What kind of business?
He owns a small production company.
You mean theatrical?
No, music.
And what does your boyfriend do, Miss Enslin?
He's a writer.
And what do your parents do?
My mom works in a factory. She's an accountant. And my dad fixes the roads and works for the township.
How old are you, Miss Enslin?
25.
You have to grow up and stop being a baby. If you have a responsibility, you're supposed to take care of the responsibility. You're not supposed to stick somebody else with your responsibilities. You were going to assume the responsibility on the car until you decided it was too expensive a proposition for you to take it over after the lease. So what? You relied on your parents to treat you like a baby and buy you a car so you could get to and from work and not have to take care of this responsibility. You have to grow up, madam. Beauty fades, dumb is forever. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
10-year-old Anne-Marie Fessler is suing her former roommate, 25-year-old James Hill, for stealing money meant for her boyfriend's bail.
All rise. Now, this is case number 406 on the calendar in the matter of Fessler versus Hill.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Miss Fessler, this young man is your boyfriend's nephew. Mm-hmm. Your boyfriend was in jail. Is he still in jail?
Yes.
What is he in jail for?
We had gotten into an argument in a restaurant parking lot, and he hit me, and the cops were called, and he was locked up, and they're holding him for old warrants that he had.
Outstanding warrants for what?
One was a shoplifting charge from 95. One was a drug charge, and something else. I think it has something to do with the drug charge. I'm not exactly sure what.
Do you know what he's in jail for?
Them fighting all the time, and like they're just very dysfunctional. Like,
well, they may be very dysfunctional, but that's not the only reason he's in jail. In any event, it is your claim that you gave him some money to bail out your boyfriend, that he didn't bail out your boyfriend, but he stole your money. And then you think he took some other money from an ATM card. Some convoluted story. In any event, Mr. Hill said, I took $600 to go and bail out my uncle that you did give him, and when he got to the prison to bail him out, it was more than that, so he gave you back your $600. He doesn't know anything about any other stolen money. He says he doesn't know why you would think that he would take property that belongs to you. Okay, Ms. Fessler, when was your boyfriend arrested for domestic violence?
November 24th of 2006.
And when did you call Mr. Hill about giving him money to go bail him out?
I called him and told him what the bail was. He told me to give him the money that I had, and he would see what he can do about getting the rest to go bail him out. I had $700 on me at the time.
Where'd you get $700 from?
Every month I get $400 from the state. They give me I'm on rental assistance and welfare. They gave me $400 every month. We saved $200 every month for the last 3 months.
Just a second. They give you $400 for what?
For my kids from welfare every month.
How many children do you have?
I have 2.
So the state gives you $400 a month to feed and take care of your children. And you save $200.
I was taking $200 out every month for my kids' Christmas, and the other $200 I was using to buy their diapers and stuff every month.
What other money comes into your house?
That's all the money that we have.
No. Impossible.
They were paying...
Impossible.
They were paying
You
our
are
rent.
You, the boyfriend, the 2 children, living on, according to you, $50 a week, because if they send $400 and you're saving $200, that means that the 4 of you are living on $50 a week, unless the boyfriend is selling drugs.
No, they were paying our rent also. We were getting rental assistance, too, from welfare. They were also paying our rent, and that was $800 a month that they were paying for us.
So they're paying rent. That still leaves you $50 a week to
We
feed...
were also receiving food stamps from them, too. We were getting $500 in food stamps, too.
So were you selling those?
No.
What were you doing with them?
Buying food and formula for my son and my daughter.
And what was the boyfriend doing?
He was trying to find a job.
When was the last time he actually found a job?
In the summertime.
Doing what?
He was working for a trucking company.
And what happened to that job?
He lost his job because he was late too many days.
Why was he late?
Because I was sick, I was pregnant, so he was staying home to help take care of me and my daughter while I was pregnant with my son.
But you had been receiving welfare for a long time, right?
Yes.
So why wasn't he working and getting you off welfare before you got pregnant with the last baby?
We were having a lot of problems. They were trying to help us out with everything that we could. We were moving back and forth from place to place. We were having problems with my first landlord.
Listen, the government wants to give away their money to families who are actually living together. That is something that I am not going to rectify in my lifetime, although I would like to try. What I resent is welfare is supposed to provide people with their basic necessities, not enough money to save. You know, people who earn $25,000, $30,000 a year can't put away $200 a month because they have to use that money to pay for rent, gas, electric, telephone, medical, all kinds of other things, medicines, you know, so even if you're working and working hard and earning a moderate amount of money, you can't save $200 a month. Here, you're saving $200 a month on the taxpayer for Christmas presents. That's ridiculous, if I believed you. So, go ahead. So you had saved $600 so far for Christmas, and you gave him the $600.
I gave him the $600 and told him to go down and to the bail bondsman, and they said that they would take $600 to get him out. I gave him the $600. I couldn't go down there. They said that I had to be at least 23 to sign the papers. I'm not 23, so I couldn't take the money down there and sign it.
How old are you?
I'm 21. So I asked him to take the money down there. He said his sister would co-sign with him. Supposedly they took the money down there. He called me back and told me that the bail bondsman wanted more money, that a charge from New York came up on him. So I went...
He's some beaut. So he's got stuff from where? Where do you live?
Trenton, New Jersey.
So you live in New Jersey? Well, it's not far from New York to New Jersey. He gets around. What happened to the $600, Mr. Hill?
All right, Your Honor. First of all, everything she said is bogus.
Listen to me. I asked you a question.
Yes.
I said, what happened to the she gave you $600.
Yes,
that
did.
you agree with?
Yes, ma'am.
My question is a simple one, Mr. Hill. And I'm getting hungry.
Okay.
You understand? What happened to the $600?
It went right back into her hand, Your Honor.
When?
Right after I tried, my witness here, Miss Irvin, she took me to the police station to bail him out. When they told me it was not enough money, I then returned her $600 plus $155 of my own because she asked for extra money to go help pay the fines off before he can get bailed out. I never even asked her for that money back. Following morning, she tells me the money's missing. Someone's stolen the money. I have nothing to do with that.
She told you that someone stole that $600?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, he got up in the morning and came downstairs and told me that in the middle of the night he found my front door to my apartment standing wide open. He said the apartment got cold, he came down and used the bathroom, and the door was standing open to my apartment. I was going to my room to go see where my money was. My money was gone. He claimed that somebody came in and took the money.
Miss Fessler, you following what I'm saying, madam?
Yeah, but I'm saying
what
he's saying is
I want
true.
you to listen to me very carefully. We're starting with this premise, Miss Fessler, that the money you gave him, the $600 to bail out your boyfriend, right, was money that the government intended for your children. That's what the taxpayers gave you the money for, to feed and clothe your children, not to use for Christmas presents, and certainly not to use to bail out your drug addict boyfriend. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Who do you work for?
I work for National Fidelity. I'm a junior loan officer.
Really?
Yes.
What's the name of your boss?
John.
And later today,
There was police outside, and they said, everybody out of the house, come out with your hands up. And Grover says, now, if they ask you, tell them I didn't change my clothes and I never left the house.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Anne Marie Fessler claims former roommate James Hill stole money earmarked to bail her boyfriend out of jail. James says Anne Marie is making up a story.
Now, it matters not to me, and I'm telling this to you from the bottom of my heart. If he stole that money and used it for, I don't know, bought a whole new outfit, had his hair done, I don't know, whatever he did with the money, right? That to me is no worse than what you did, taking the money away from your children to go bail out your boyfriend. What difference does it make to me as a representative of the government? What happened to the misappropriated money? It wasn't meant for your boyfriend. Put your hand down. By giving the money away for bail, you are stealing the money from your children. You can't do that. You get it? Good. So I am totally disinterested with what happened to the $600.
Okay.
All I know is, as a taxpayer, one thing remains firm. The boyfriend is probably where he belongs, and the $600 was going to get misused, whoever used it, you or him. And I don't care. I got other fish to fry today. What difference does it make to me is whose con it is, his or yours. Now, what other money do you claim he took from you?
He took $200 from the Red Cross that they had gave me. My apartment had burnt down on December 4th. We both were given cards from the Red Cross. I had $722. He received $200 and something. I don't know exactly how much. I had asked him to come into the hotel room with me for a minute to watch my kids while I went to go call my mom. I came back in to get my kids. My mom was taking us to New York to go to court with her.
For what?
She's having a problem with two of my other sisters in New York.
Listen to me. Get to the story. The Red Cross gave you money, and you claim that he took out some money from that card.
I got to New York to take the money off the card so I could buy my daughter something to wear. My card was not there. He was the only person in the room. I have a police report stating where the money came from. It came from an ATM machine from a store that's right down the street from where he lives. I never told him the money came from an ATM machine from a store. When I called him and asked him why he took the money, he told me that there's no ATM machine in the store down the street. I never said anything about a store to him.
Did you steal any money from her Red Cross card?
No, ma'am. You had the cards that they gave us. They give you and only you an access code to those cards. You understand? She asked me to watch the children. My room was 2 doors down from her. I kindly came, watched the children. How can I take something within a matter of seconds?
They have an envelope. They give you the card.
I don't know. All I'm asking you is, did you take her money?
No, ma'am.
They put the card inside of an
just-
envelope. They put the card inside an envelope, and on the envelope is the PIN number. He knew it too because they gave him the same thing.
So we had the same PIN
So
code?
Just
we
a second.
had.
Do you work?
Yes.
No,
Who do
he
you-
doesn't.
Shh. I don't want to hear. Who do you work
I
for?
work for National Fidelity. I work. It's like it's a loan off. I'm a junior loan officer.
Do you get paid a weekly salary?
Yes.
How much?
I earn $600 a week.
Really?
Yes.
What's the name of your boss?
John. Oh, that's his first name.
What's his phone number?
Excuse me.
Excuse me, phone number. What word didn't you
I
understand?
can't. I don't know the phone
What's
number.
your work
offhand.
phone number?
Excuse me. My work phone number.
Yeah, that would be another.
Like,
What word
everything-
didn't you
ev-
understand?
Your Honor,
Oh, please,
everything is
people
stored in
deserve
my
each other.
phone.
Miss Fessler, your case is dismissed. Listen, when the government wants to give people money, the government intends for the people to use that money for its intended purpose. The fact that your Red Cross, also money that you never earned, The Red
But I
Cross,
had
I'm
lost my
speaking.
house.
You lost your house with money that was given to you by the state.
But he still took it from me.
I
though,
don't
that
know
had
whether
money.
he did or not.
My sister was there with me. He admitted, he told my sister
Oh,
that
different
he had
story.
the money.
Come. Your name?
Tia Dixon.
Where do you live?
I live with my boyfriend.
And what do you do for a living?
Well, I'm going to school right now.
What school do you go to?
Mercer County Community College.
How many credits do you take?
No.
I would know that.
She
Like this.
She just started.
I just started. I start back next Monday for the second
So
semester.
you're not... Oh, please. All right, you say that this young man admitted he took money from
He
you.
admitted it. When she called him about it, he admitted to her that he took it.
How do you know that?
Cause I
Shut
was,
up. Don't speak. Because?
Cause I was sitting there.
Sitting where?
I was sitting with her.
Yes.
And he admitted that he took the money and he started
What do you
cussing
mean,
her
you were on
out.
the phone?
Yeah, on the phone. She had chirped him up and she said that she wanted her money back. He said, first he started cussing her out. He said, stop effing calling me about this. You call me about this one more time, I'm gonna F up you and your kids. He said, I got the money, you not getting it back. And before I even heard all of that, she called me, said she was going to finally get her money back. She went down to the bail bondsman to wait for him.
I'm not talking about the bail bondsman. You didn't understand what I said about the bail bondsman. I'm talking about the ATM.
The ATM card. He went and he took the money off the card. He said that he took it. He
When did
admitted
they tell you that he
about
took it?
He was on the phone with her and he
Again,
admitted.
just a second. He was on the phone again with her at a different time.
It was a week ago. This happened a week ago. I
Ms.
called
Fessler,
him.
your case is dismissed. I'm not happy with anybody here. Why don't you all spend a little more time trying to do something productive and a little less time figuring out how to scam the system? Goodbye.
Is that excuse? You may step out.
I wasn't spending it for the wrong reasons. That money was given to my whole family.
They have no idea what they're doing here. They're very bad actors.
200 me and my boyfriend got, 200 my kids got, so that made it even.
With them, it's no help. They're just a lost cause.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Miller versus Smith. Step forward, please.
Cindy Miller is suing her former landlord, Grover Smith III, for the return of rent. Cindy says on the day she moved into Grover's home, it was raided by police.
Miss Miller, you rented a room from Mr. Smith in his house?
Yes, Your
Is
Honor,
that
I
right?
did.
According to your complaint, shortly after you moved in, there was a police siege in his house, and Mr. Smith was arrested.
Correct.
You moved out? Wise. Very wise. You want your $500 back.
Correct.
Okay. When did you move in?
I moved in the 10th of December
Okay. Where had you been living?
in Granada Hills at a different house.
Why did you move out of your last house?
I needed to get another place to live because I was assaulted on Thanksgiving, and that's another case pending, and I was afraid that the assailants would find me where I was. So I needed to find someplace else to go very quickly. So I looked in the penny saver, and I found Mr. Grover's house. And it
Were
was
you assaulted during a robbery attempt, or?
No, it was during Thanksgiving at one of my friend's houses, and
Okay.
it's a story, it's another case.
Okay. So you found the room through the penny saver?
Right.
And?
And then I moved in on the 10th of December. And
Gave him $500.
I gave him
So far correct,
$500.
Mr. Smith?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Keep going.
And then I moved in about 4:30 on that afternoon on Sunday, and at 8 p.m., 8:30 that night, there was police outside, and they came on the loudspeaker, and they said, everybody out of the house, come out with your hands up.
That was the day you moved in?
The day I moved in, like 4 hours later. And Grover comes and knocks on my door and says, Cindy, we have to go outside because the police want us to go outside. And I said, oh my gosh. So I had no shoes on, no coat, but we went to the front door, and Grover looks at me and he says, you know, if they ask you, tell them I didn't change my clothes and I never left the house.
He said that to you?
He said that to me.
Why would you ask her to say that, sir?
I don't recall saying that to her.
That would be an odd thing for her to make up.
Yeah.
What were they looking for you for, Mr. Smith?
I was accused of robbing my ex-girlfriend.
On that day?
On the same day that she moved in, yeah.
Were you home that day?
Yes, I was home.
Did you ever go out that day?
Just one time to the backyard. That's about it for a little while.
How
Do
long?
some yard work.
How long?
Maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Other than that, you were home all day?
Yes.
Was he home all day?
No.
So, you were all made to come out of the house. You weren't totally dressed when you came out of the house. When did you move out?
I did move out for a week because I didn't have a a place to go just yet. I'd called my brother that night after the police let us back in the house, after a big ordeal with the police handcuffed me. I had to raise
Handcuffed you?
Yes, I had to go out. I had to go out of the house with my hands raised, with the guns pointed at me. And he was yelling at the police saying, you know, sir, don't make me come out of the house because I've been shot before by the police. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then they handcuffed me and they patted me down and made sure I didn't have any weapons, and they made us stay outside for like an hour.
When did you ask him for the $500 back?
A few days later.
And what did he say?
No.
I don't recall ever hearing from this woman that, you know, that I owed her any money at all.
Well, what did you think she sent you a summons for, sir? She was inviting you to take line dance lessons?
Not today is the first time that I've heard from this woman.
But you got a summons from her? You came to court? You must have known that she wanted her money back. Why didn't you just give her the $500 back?
I didn't know she wanted any money back until today.
Until today? What did you think she wanted? She wanted to date you?
I thought she was still living in my house. She still lives with me. To my knowledge, she still lives there.
What do you mean? So, could have fooled me. I've been gone an awful long time. I feel like
she's lucky that I'm not countersuing her.
Just a minute. Are you telling me she still lives in your house?
Yes. I've gotten no 30-day notice, let alone no 3-day notice.
I don't care whether you got a 30-day notice, a 3-day notice, or a partridge in a pear tree, sir. Did she live in your house?
Yeah, she lived in my house.
As of when was she sleeping in your house?
As of December 10th.
Oh, get out of here, idiot. Oh, listen, if I could fine you for stupid, I would fine you for stupid. Right now, all you owe is $500. Judge him for the plaintiff.
It was
the amount of
false
$500, that's all. Step out.
Parties are excused.
Property manager Young Lee is suing his ex-girlfriend, 23-year-old receptionist Kristen Beck, for a loan to fix her car and for the return of his '92 Acura. Kristen is countersuing, claiming Young vandalized her car during a fight.
Yeah, this is case number 516 on the calendar in the matter of Lee versus Beck. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
Mr. Lee, the defendant was your girlfriend for a while, and you claimed some loans to her for car repairs. And in addition to the loan for car repairs, you say that you loaned her a car of yours, and she refuses to return it.
Yes, Your Honor.
You want the car back.
Yes.
The defendant says that you fixed her car because you always insisted on making sure that her car was in running order. There was never any discussion of her paying you back for fixing her car, and that you, in fact, gave her this car, and she is counterclaiming because she says that after she broke up with you, you broke up with him?
He broke up with me.
And also...
Just a second. That you came to the house, to her house, and you disabled her car, which you claim is your car, and she wants the money that she had to spend or will have to spend to put it back into running condition. So how long was this lovely relationship that you enjoyed, Mr. Lee?
Year and a half. But I think we broke up like 3-4 times in between.
The natural course of events, Mr. Lee. When did you loan her this car?
First of all, she had her own car, and this car was keep on breaking down. She had no money, so that's what I do. I fix car. That's, you know, my side job. So she has her car. She's always breaking down. Sometimes she helps me pick up my daughter. She has a daughter on her own, and this car is like unsafe. So I keep on spending money on it. I spent $500 one time because her water pump went out, so we did the timing belt, everything. I had the receipt. Then maybe like a month later, her alternator goes out. I fixed it. She said she's going to pay me the money. I said, I spent $500 on your car. Well, I'm going to go to my mom and get some money. I'll pay you back. She goes to her mother's house, come back with $40. Here's 40. I'm like, I spent 500 for, you know. She had no job, so I told her, when you get a job, pay me.
Did you live together?
No.
So she was doing you a favor?
Well, one night I told her you spend the night.
Just a second. That doesn't answer my question, Mr. Lee. Uncross your hand. She was doing you a favor by picking up your daughter.
Yes.
And you didn't want your daughter to drive in a car that was unsafe, I assume.
Yes. And plus,
right?
She had no job. I was paying her rent. I was supporting her.
Just a second. You were paying her rent where she was living. How much was her rent every month?
$500 a month.
And how many times did you pay her rent?
I think I paid 3 times.
When?
2004.
When in 2004? Before or after you loaned her money to fix her car?
After. No, right around that time. June, May, I think it was August, I don't know.
All right. May, June, August, certainly after March, after you loaned her money to fix her car.
Yes.
And did she promise to pay you back the rent money too?
No, because she was helping me picking up my daughter, so she had no job, so I was helping her out on that. Is there something?
Shh. Shh. Are you working now?
Yes. Or no, not anymore. I just lost my job last week.
That's what I'm asking you. Are you working now?
No.
Is my question.
I'm not.
Well, your arrangement with her was that she would pay you back when she got a job. She's not working.
She never worked. I got her that job.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you, sir? Even if I believe you that they were loans, and I'm not so sure that they were loans, because you and the defendant had an intimate relationship, you were paying her rent, you were supporting her, and I cannot imagine that there was an expectation that she was supposed to pay you back the few $100s that you were spending to fix her car, especially since that was your business to fix cars. Now, let's get to this car that you say belongs to you, that you merely loaned to her. Tell me about that. When did you loan her your car, and what kind of car did you loan to her?
It's a 92 Acura Integra.
And when did she take possession of it?
June.
And tell me about how she took possession of the car.
She didn't take possession. She had a car, her car, always breaking down, that she had no money to fix, that I was fixing all the time. She said she'd pay me back, but she had no job, so she couldn't pay me back.
That's right. So we're not taking care of that. That took care of the loan.
So I bought this car because it was a good deal. I fixed it up. I was going to sell it. But since her car's always breaking down, I told her, here, why don't you drive this for a while? But the training is not so good, so in 2 years, I want to sell it before the training goes out.
Just a second. So here's this 1992 car. You can use it. But in 2 years, you have to give it back to me because the transmission's going to go out, and I want to sell it before the transmission goes out. Is that what he just said to me?
That's what he just said to me.
All right. So you gave her the car. Did you also give her the title to the car?
No, because she crashed her car with my daughter in it. Her driving is not good, so I don't want to be... I'll lend it to her, but I don't want to be reliable. So I bought the car. Registration, I pay for it. Insurance.
Just a second. I'm asking you a question, and you're going to give me an answer.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
There's a 16-year age difference between the two of you. If the worst she did to you was take advantage of you for a 1992 car, I suggest to you, Mr. Lee, get over it.
And later today,
Some choice words were thrown back and forth.
You told her, leave.
I asked her politely to leave.
No, you didn't ask her politely. Don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining, sir.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Young Lee says ex-girlfriend Kristen Beck owes for a loan to fix her car. Young also claims Kristen won't return his car.
Was the car registered in her name?
Yes. But the pink slip...
And the car is titled in her name?
Yes. But she signed it. I have the pink slip. She signed it over to me.
Show me everything.
Show you what?
Show me the pink slip where she signed it over to you.
You're not letting me finish my story.
I'm asking you questions, Mr.
I had
Lee.
the pink slip. She wanted to see the pink slip. So I gave it to... Well, I didn't give it to her. I went over to her house, gave the land... She wasn't there, so I gave it to landlord. You know what? Every time we're breaking up, she comes back saying sorry. I think it's for the car she's coming back. Because every time we've broken up, she gave me the car back. 3 times I took the car back. Okay? But she always come back, sorry, sorry. And she wants the car back. So I'm thinking, this relationship is all about the car. That's what... It is about the car because she sold her car.
You may be right. You may be right.
She
It's
sold
all
her
about
car for $1,000. I told her that she's trying to give me $500. The car that she sold it for $1,000. $500, she's trying to give it to me.
Did you take the $500?
No.
Well, why didn't you take the $500? Because according to you, she owed you a lot more money from the car repairs.
Because I don't know what she was giving me that $500 for. I said, what's this $500? Is this the money that you owe me from the car and all the money that I spent, you know, like rent, everything. She said, no, this money's, I sold my car, so I'm giving you $500 because you bought me a car. I'm like, wait a minute. I told you this the second time. I didn't give you that car. I lent it to you.
You did.
I did.
You did give
because I have the pink slip.
She has the registration. Car's registered.
She has the
in her
registration, but I have the pink slip.
Is the car registered in your name?
Yes, it is.
Do you have registration for the car?
You know, I don't. I have the registration.
Can I see it, please?
It's been under my name ever since the beginning, and he never.
Let me just see it. Mr. Lee, you should have taken the $500, sir.
Your Honor?
Should have taken the $500.
500.
June 10th, 2004, the car was registered in her name.
It was never in my name. It was the person that I bought it. It was his name. I never even put it in my name because I'm still working on it. After I'm done with it, I was going to sell it, but I lent it to her. So I told her, put it in your name, but when the pink slip comes, sign it. I have the pink slip already signed to me.
Show me.
Okay? Then later on, she wanted the pink slip. I gave it to her landlord. Then she wanted to break up, whatever. We got into a fight, okay? I wanted my car back. You want to break up? Fine. I want my car back. She didn't want to give it to me. Okay? Give me the pink slip. She said, my landlord has it. Why does your landlord has my pink slip?
You just told me you gave it to her landlord.
I gave it to the landlord, but she supposed to give it to her. But she's saying she never did. And I have my witness here.
I'm not interested in your witness, Mr. Lee. The relationship didn't work out. The rent that you paid voluntarily.
Fine. I'm not asking for the rent.
Just a second. Well, just a second. But 2 seconds ago, you said to me, what are you giving me this $500 for? I paid your rent. I paid your car expenses. What is this $500 for? The rent, the car expenses? Listen, it didn't work out. How old are you?
39.
How old are you?
23.
So there's a 16-year age difference between the two of you. She's a pretty girl. You liked her. She was helpful with your child. I'm not saying that she didn't take advantage of you. Maybe she did. But if the worst she did to you was take advantage of you for a 1992 car, I suggest to you, Mr. Lee, you gotta. I suggest to you, Mr. Lee, you have to get over it.
No, excuse me, Your Honor. Okay? The car is mine. I lent it to her. I have witness. Okay? I put it in her name. We got into a huge fight. I want my car back. She put a restraining order on me because.
Mr. Lee, get over it, sir. Get over it. Did you go? That's all. It's case dismissed. Put him outside. Listen to me. Your countersuit's dismissed. I suggest you get security out there for them.
I wasn't surprised what happened in there. I kind of knew he would have done something to upset her. It was out of despite of the restraining order. Because, you know, like, I had this on him, so he just wanted to, because I won't get back with him.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter, Davison versus Scott. Step forward, please.
24-year-old waiter Ian Davison is suing his former roommate, 21-year-old draftsman Elizabeth Scott, for rent, utilities, and for hitting him in the face with a broom. Elizabeth claims Ian put his hands on her first.
Mr. Davison, according to what I read in your complaint, you and Miss Scott and another person entered into a lease in an apartment. Three of you were going to share a place together. Miss Scott decided to move out a couple of months early. She had a boyfriend. They decided to rent a place together. And you believe that she owes you for the 2 months' rent.
Correct.
As well as a utility bill for those 2 months. And in addition, it is your claim that she assaulted you when she left the apartment over a dispute. Ms. Scott says that she had fully intended to pay the 2 months' rent, but that you became so aggressive when she was moving out, it was unsafe for her to live there. As a matter of fact, it was you who were the aggressor on the final day of her stay in the apartment. She was, however, taken into custody initially because she hit you with a broom. Is that right?
I was never taken into custody, but...
The police were called?
Yes. I called the police.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ian Davison says his former roommate, Elizabeth Scott, owes for rent and utility bills. Ian also claims Elizabeth hit him in the face with a broom and gave him a black eye.
So what happened, Mr. Davison?
On the 8th of October, 2004, we had a meeting, roommate meeting, to discuss the finances, to figure out whether or not everything was in order. At that point in time, outside of her delinquency that month, everything was fine.
So you say she hadn't paid her rent?
Correct. We received a notice that said that she had not paid. There was $300 outstanding, being that I paid mine and Ken paid his, who was my roommate at the time. We figured it was hers. We asked her, and she said she hadn't paid, but she said she was going to, which we were completely fine with. And then I brought up the utilities. When I brought this up, she got real mad. She said that I was nickel and diming her, claiming...
Well, you're talking about the utilities that were owed up until that point, or the utilities prospectively for the 2 months that she wouldn't be living there?
A little bit of both. There was some owed, and then there was a couple of months when she wasn't going to be there that we were claiming she would have to pay. She said that she didn't think so. She
didn't want to pay for the utilities for the time that she wouldn't be enjoying the utilities, and only you two would be.
Correct. On October 9th, though, the day in question, she arrived to pick up the loose ends. Her and her boyfriend arrived. I was preparing for work, watching some football, and I calmly asked her. I asked her if she was going to pay, if she had been down to the office that day, and she said no, and if I could speak bluntly, Your Honor, she said, verbatim, none of your effing business. Some choice words were thrown back and forth. I realized that the argument wasn't going to be...
When you say some choice words were thrown back and forth, Mr. Davison, by both of you?
By both of us.
And when you say some choice words by both of you, I assume you meant that you raised your voice.
I did.
And she raised her voice.
She did.
Okay, so it got pretty heated.
It got heated.
And then what did you do, Mr. Davison?
Then I told her that I would like her to leave. She said that she wasn't going anywhere. You know, she was on the lease. Although she wasn't paying it, she claimed that she was no longer going to be paying anything. So I said...
So you told her, leave.
I asked her politely to leave.
No, you didn't ask her politely. At this point, you're not asking anybody politely, Mr. Davison. Don't, you know, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining, sir. So you told her to get out of the apartment?
Yes.
And when you told her to get out of the apartment, what did you do?
I walked into the kitchen and, you know, confronted her. I said, you need to go. This is stressing me out. I don't want to go to work. You know, all worked up.
Just a second. So what you're telling me is after you've been screaming and yelling at each other and using profanity at each other, you walked inside and said to her, listen, you really have to go because this is stressing me out. Is that what you want me to believe, Mr. Davison?
Not in those words.
Well, if I ask you to relay the conversation to me, I don't expect you to put a spin on it.
Okay.
Because otherwise then I can't believe anything that you tell me.
Okay.
Go.
I walked into the kitchen. I said, will you please go? Will you get out? And I said it angrily, because I was worked up. You are correct. At this point in time, Nick was waiting. Her boyfriend was waiting with the door open. They had all their things to go. They were ready to go. She had, you know, her broom and her Swiffer. She was getting ready to go. I placed my hands on her shoulder, you know, to escort her out, at which point in time she stepped back and she used the broom, forcefully hitting me in the eye. I have a picture of it right here.
Why did you put your hands on her, Mr. Davison?
Because I was hoping that it would, you know, help her out of... I was hoping that I would be able to escort her out of the apartment.
How tall are you?
6 feet.
6 feet. How tall are you?
5'3".
5'3". How much do you weigh?
About 185.
And what do you weigh?
125.
See how good things are? If you just keep your mouth shut? Tell me what he did to you in the kitchen.
Well, I had other things besides a Swiffer and a broom in my hand. I had a bag of stuff. I was cleaning out the hall closet where I keep all my cleaning and stuff. And I had all my stuff, and he grabbed both my arms and pushed me against, not against the door, but towards the entry of the apartment.
From the back or from the front?
Front. And then I pushed back, and the Swiffer hit him in the face.
Stuff happens. A 6-foot-tall, 185-pound man is not supposed to put their hands in an aggressive, angry manner, which is what you were at that point. Otherwise, you would have not left the couch for football. The young men in my family, if they have to leave the couch for anything, it usually is very irritating to them. The fact that you got worse the deal, as I said, stuff happens. Now, let's get on to the 2 months' rent. Mr. Davison, you kicked her out of the apartment.
I did not kick her out, Your
Yes,
Honor.
you did. According to you, sir, you said to her, get out. And when the police arrived, they actually put her out. Right?
They did. They said she could no longer be in the apartment without a police escort.
I am ruling now, Mr. Davison, that that is because you put your hands on her in an aggressive manner and told her to get out of the apartment. And if she got out of the apartment at your direction, you ain't entitled to the rent. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Mac McDonald is suing his friend's estranged husband, Mike Padani, for assaulting him at his place of business. Mike claims Mac had been seeing his wife.
All rise. Now, this is case number 384 on the calendar in the matter of McDonald versus Podani. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Who is this?
This is Joan.
I don't know who
Joan Podani. She's a witness to the assault.
That's your wife?
That's my wife, soon-to-be ex-wife.
Soon-to-be ex-wife.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald, your complaint alleges that the defendant assaulted you. And he assaulted you because he believed that you were messing around with his wife. You want your bills paid, your medical bills, your dental bill. Mr. Podani said he was sort of defending himself because you went after him first. And his honor. Let's see. You weren't arrested for this assault, sir?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, Mr. McDonald, how do you and the defendant's wife know each other?
I've worked with her for 6 years. She also is a friend.
Tell me when this assault took place.
The assault took place September 16, 2006. It took place at my place of work. Me and Joan went to get something to eat. We returned...
What time?
At 5:30.
After the place closed?
After work, yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I do hair for a living.
So after work, the place closed down and you and the defendant's wife went out for dinner. Is this the first time you did that?
No, I have worked with Joan for 6 years.
So you've gone out for dinner before?
She's been a manager at a business I owned before. So yes, we've gone out to eat before.
Nothing else, just dinner?
Just dinner.
Ever anything else other than just dinner?
No, just dinner.
Went out for dinner, that was about 5:30. What time did you get back?
6:30.
And you, I assume, came back, you went in one car?
Yes, went in my truck.
You were coming back to pick up her car?
Correct.
That's the scene. Tell me what happened.
We pulled up in the parking lot where I work. As I pulled up, I saw that Mike was in the parking lot also.
Had you met him before?
I've known Mike for most of that 6 years also, to the point of actually playing cards and stuff together. Pulled up, I saw Mike starting to walk towards my truck. When he got up next to my truck, I rolled down my window. Mike punched me through my truck window. I then ended up trying to get out of the vehicle. I was unable to get out of the vehicle because he kept shutting the vehicle. So I went over the passenger seat, got out of the vehicle, asked him what was up. His response was that I was messing around with his wife. We told him that we had gone out to eat. I actually had the food container from going out to eat in my vehicle. I gave that to him. Shortly after, the police responded to the scene, asked what...
Who called the police?
I think a witness in the parking lot called the police. They responded fairly fast. They separated all three parties.
Everybody shouting at everybody else?
No, it wasn't that. They just separated. There was actually 3 squads that showed up on the scene. They separated Joan, Mike,
Where
and
was
myself.
Joan?
Joan was with me during this time. She was in the passenger seat, so she also had to go out. She was there when the police showed up. The police asked me if I had been assaulted. I said I had. They asked me what I wanted to do about it, if they wanted to charge Mike. I had said no, but I did tell them, at the time I thought I was going to lose a tooth that was already a fake tooth, so I knew it was going to cost me money. So I told them if I lose my tooth, I'd like to have him pay for it. And I also asked the police to let him know not to come around me anymore from that point on. Hindsight, I wish I would have pressed charges at that time. At the time that that happened, I did not, because I knew that that would potentially cause some trouble for their home. Plus, I know that Mike had some potential trouble in the past, and I did not know if that was going to create a bigger problem than what they already had. But since that time, the stitches came out to be the amount that I'm suing for, the $21.29.
How many stitches
I
did
ended
you
up
have to
with
have?
8 stitches in the front and 2 in my mouth.
Where?
Right there. I have a scar from it.
Well, it all started back when I asked my wife if they've been messing around, and she said, no, they haven't. And then she tells me that she's not in love with me anymore. She told me that night that she's working until 6:30. So we were supposed to go out. We had an engagement to go out on a buddy's yacht to go boating. I called her up. She didn't answer the phone. I called her cell phone. She didn't answer that either. I thought maybe she's just cleaning up, so I thought I'd swing out there and help her clean up.
What time was she due home, sir?
6:30.
So you swung out to see if you could help her clean up.
Right. And place is all locked up, closed up, and her car's sitting out in the parking lot.
What time did you get there?
Must have been about 5:45.
So you waited.
So I waited, and I called her on the phone. Of course, she didn't answer. Next thing you know, they pull up together in his truck. I walked up to the truck. I was mad. I was angry at what's been going on because I've been accusing her, actually these two, of for a while now. And I walked up to his truck, and I thought he was going to, since I was mad and angry, I thought he was going to kick the door at me, so I grabbed it, and when he rolled down the window, I punched him. So I'm, defending my family, trying to protect it. And
No, you're not.
I think I was. And now they're together.
Well, but you're not, sir. You're not allowed to do that. Even if they were doing more than just having dinner after work, you're not allowed to put your hands on somebody else.
I know I'm not supposed to hit them,
So
I know
why
it
did you
was
do
wrong,
it?
but
How many other people have you hit when you got angry?
none.
You've been in trouble with the law before?
Yes.
For what?
Fraud.
Nothing other than fraud?
No.
Is it a long time ago or recently?
A long time ago.
Okay, what kind of work do you do, Mr. Padani?
I do home inspections.
You have children?
Yes, I have 4.
How long are you married?
10 years.
How old are your children?
I have a 9-year-old with Joan, and I have 2 20-year-olds and a 17-year-old.
With your former wife?
Right.
How long you divorced from your former wife?
15 years.
Was it your idea or her idea?
Both.
So you fell out of love with each other.
Right.
You fell out of love with each other.
Right. And then I raised those 3 kids.
Good. I mean, that's nice. But you fell out of love with each other, because
Right.
that happens. You understood that happens.
Right.
You didn't beat her up, did you, because she fell out of love with
No.
you? She didn't beat you up because you fell out of love with her.
No.
Right?
Never hit a woman.
But it happens.
It happens.
It happens.
It does. It happens.
Happens. She doesn't say that you have the right to hit him.
No, I'm not proud of hitting him, but
Fine, so then you have to take care of his bills. How much were your bills?
The medical bills were $21, $29. I had to have the truck cleaned out. That was $175. The clothes I was wearing was $125, and I missed a day's work following the incident, which was $500.
I was told he didn't miss any work.
Whether he missed any work or not, sir, he's not even suing you for pain and suffering, which he should. Absolutely should. You have no right to put your hands on somebody else. He's suing you for $29.29, which is nothing. If he would have sued you for $5,000, I would have given it to him. What?
Since then, I've had to get a restraining order against him because he's actually contacted my ex-wife to find out where I live.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You moved on once? You survived?
Move on again.
How old are you?
41.
41. You're a baby. I got a son 42 years old. He's never been married once. You're looking for wife number 3. Tell me your secret.
And later today,
Do you have a gambling problem?
No.
You have a drug problem?
No.
Your aunt says it was about $150,000 that you blew.
She's correct.
I just want to cry, Judge.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mac McDonald says his friend's estranged husband, Mike Padani, assaulted him in the parking lot at his work.
Mr. McDonald, your complaint alleges that he owes you $29.29. There's no question you're going to get that. I was just gratuitously throwing in that you're entitled to pain and suffering as well. Mr. Padani is lucky that he didn't spend 6 months in jail for assault. I mean, it's over.
It's over.
It's over.
Time to move on.
Time to move on.
Yeah.
You moved on once. You survived.
Move on again.
You're going to move on again. And believe me, how old are you?
41.
41. You're a baby. I got a son 42 years old. He's never been married once. You're looking for wife number 3. Tell me your secret. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,929. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Sir, wait here. Sir, out the back door to your right.
It did feel good. But then, of course, he got out of the truck and hit me.
No, I didn't hit him back.
I apologized to him right after I did hit him.
He's always been very possessive.
Well, they've been kind of messing around for a while now.
The defendant does have an anger issue.
When he was saying that I spoke to his wife, I actually ran into her at a bar, and she was telling me that's why they got divorced, because of those two.
He and his first wife had issues, so I think he just kind of carried it over into our relationship.
I'm happy it's done. Time to move on.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Ernest versus Kennedy, step forward, please.
Karen Ernest is suing her nephew, 26-year-old Nicholas Kennedy, for a loan to get his Mustang fixed.
Mr. Kennedy, this is your aunt?
Yes.
That's your mother's sister?
Yes.
Parents are dead?
Yes.
Your aunt tells me that you inherited a lot of money.
I inherited a trust fund from my grandmother when she passed away.
You still have the money?
My aunt is in control of my trust fund, yes.
How old are you?
26.
How much money do you get from the trust fund?
There was a total of $50,000.
So how much income do you get from that every year?
I actually do not know, Judge. My aunt is in full control of it. She's the trustee of the trust fund until I'm 35.
Well, there has to be income that's paid out periodically. How much income is paid out to him?
Judge Judy, due to financial issues with Nicholas over the past few years, before the passing of his grandmother, I sat down with her and her attorney, and we came up with an idea that the only way that Nicholas will ever have any money in the future was to set the age limit of 35 for him to get the money.
And the income is reinvested?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, this is what the case is about. I just have to get a little bit of a picture of the family. You don't mind, Miss Ernest, do you?
No, Judge Judy.
Because one gets the sense from reading these papers that you adored him and he disappointed you. You made him, according to you, a loan to have his car fixed, and he promised he would pay you back.
Yes.
It was a relatively small loan.
Very small.
So I don't think that it's the money necessarily that's the issue.
You're absolutely right. It's the principle.
Right. And he hasn't paid you back.
Not a dime.
When did you take the money from your aunt to fix the car?
It was in the end of July, beginning of August of 2006.
What was wrong with your car?
The rotors, the heat shield, and the calipers were completely shot, as well as the bearings. It basically sounded like it was a bag of tin cans in the back of my car.
What kind of work do you do, Mr. Kennedy?
I'm a blackjack dealer at a casino in central New York.
Do you have a gambling problem?
No.
You have a drug problem?
No.
How long have you been a blackjack dealer?
2 years.
You get paid reasonable money?
Roughly $30,000 a year.
You support anyone other than yourself?
I have my daughter to support, yes.
How old is she?
2 years old.
Does she live with you?
No.
How much do you send her for support?
$310 a month.
Are you current?
Yes.
Do they take it out of your pay?
Yes.
Ah, that's why you're current. Good. So how come you were in such dire straits that you needed money from your aunt?
At the time, my wife and I were talking about a separation, and I spoke with my aunt. My aunt has a great deal of dislike for my wife, and she was very happy at the sound of my wife and I separating. At the time, I was...
Does she dislike her because of things that you've told her about your wife?
No.
She just decided that you didn't like her on her own?
Yeah, I believe something happened way back in the beginning in 2002 when we first got together, and things just kind of escalated from there.
Whose fault was it, without going into the story?
I really don't know. I don't even know all the details myself.
Go ahead. So?
I was in some financial trouble, and...
Why?
I was only working part-time at that point, and I needed some assistance with getting the separation going, and when I spoke to my aunt about the separation, she told me she'd help me in any other way she could possibly help me. And I also
Has she done that before?
Yes, she has.
So she's been supportive of you since you were born?
Correct. And I mentioned to her that I was having car problems, but I didn't have the money to fix my car at that time. She then offered to help me get my car fixed. Not once did she tell me that this was a loan or that I'd have to pay her back, just that she would help me get my car fixed so that I could have it back on the road. It was my only vehicle. My wife had her own vehicle at the time as well.
Now, when did she ask you for the money back, Mr. Kennedy?
Since then, I've only had 1 or 2 conversations with her in 6 months, and about a couple of weeks ago, out of the blue, I got a letter.
When, for the first time, did she ask you for the money back?
She has not asked me for the money back.
Is that right, Miss Ernest?
Incorrect.
Go ahead.
I made numerous telephone calls to Nicholas, his only cell phone that he had, and he never returned any calls whatsoever.
Tell me about the conversation that you had with him in either July or August.
Initially, I was contacted by Nicholas August 1st, 2006. He says that he has problems with his car. It's the only vehicle he has to get to work, and he can't afford to get it fixed. I told him I want nothing to do with trying to help him anymore because
Why? Tell me why.
Just so many financial issues in the past. Him and his wife have a bankruptcy already on them, 6 months into the marriage. They just can't rub two nickels together. They can't save a dime, and I didn't believe he was going to have any way to pay me back. So it's a lost cause. He begged and pleaded with me that he really needs to have his car fixed. That's the only way he can get to work. During that conversation, he also stated that they were in the process of selling their home and separating, that they were closing the end of August, and he promised, out of the closing of the house, that he would pay me back.
Did you sell your house?
Yes, I did.
When?
It was at the end of August.
How much equity did you have in your house?
We sold just the house, the furniture. We took all the furniture with us, but the house itself sold for $32,000.
that doesn't give me the answer. How much equity did you have in the house? Did you have a mortgage?
No.
So you had $32,000.
Correct.
Where's the money?
We used the money to pay back my wife's car loan, and then the rest of the money we invested into a new apartment for us, getting new furniture, getting ourselves reset up.
What'd you need new furniture for?
The furniture we had was completely destroyed.
What do you mean it was destroyed? Was there a hurricane?
No, my daughter.
Oh, you mean so it was destroyed by a 2-year-old?
Yeah.
It was destroyed by a 2-year-old.
crayons.
Mr. Kennedy, you sound ridiculous, sir. You sound ridiculous. Does your wife work?
No.
Are you back together again?
No.
When did that change?
We
Yesterday?
We started working on things, and right now it's just kind of a rocky relationship. Right now it's just for my daughter.
So when you bought the new furniture, who moved into this apartment with the new furniture?
We moved in together, and I resided there for 5 days before I moved out.
Something had to happen, Mr. Kennedy. This is becoming more interesting.
I began seeing one of my coworkers.
Oh, so you sold the house. Whose house was it? Yours, or was it the family house?
It was the money from my inheritance from my mother's passing.
Fine, because I gather from your aunt, which I sort of believe that you can't rub two nickels together. So you got a little inheritance, you bought a house. Let me follow this. With the money that you got, you bought a house, you sold the house, you took the $32,000. You paid off your wife's car.
Correct.
How much was that?
$14,000.
Then you bought new furniture because the 2-year-old destroyed the furniture.
Correct.
And you bought new furniture, put it in an apartment, brand new apartment. You spent the rest of the money, $20,000, $18,000, and you bought new furniture, moved into an apartment that you lived in for 5 days because you started fooling around with a coworker.
Correct.
How much was the car payment?
$649.61. Judge Judy, may I get the correct calculations of his inheritance totals?
Yeah, your aunt says that you got a lot more money than that, Mr. Kennedy. She said it was more like about $150,000 that you blew.
She's correct. That was the original inheritance from my mother.
How long ago?
That was back in 2004.
Mr. Kennedy, you have to grow up, sir. Your aunt is finished with you. So your wife is driving around in a brand new car. You are no longer together. Is that so far correct? Are you now with the coworker?
Yes.
Ah, perfect.
I just want to cry, Judge Judy.
Listen,
I love you.
some grow up, some don't grow up. You have to know the difference between things you can change and things that you can't. That doesn't mean that you don't love him. That means that if he needs a kidney, you may have to give it to him, but if he needs any money, let him get another job. That's easy, you know? I mean, you may have to give him an organ one day because you love him.
I did tell him no multiple times in the conversation on the phone.
Yeah, he can't, you know. I mean, he can't keep tapping into other people to clean up the mess after him. He's 26 years old. In the scheme of things, in a man's life anyway, that's still very young, you know. If they're going to grow up at all, it usually takes about 50 years. And then it's a downhill slide. But he's got a way to go.
His grandma got smart in holding the trust till he's 35 years old.
Because he'll go through 50,000 like water through a goose. Right? Good.
Yes.
Okay, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $649.61. That's all. Thank you.
57-year-old Kimberly Ham and her father, Richard, are suing the father of her children, Mac Barrett, for stealing her minivan and totaling it while driving drunk.
Quiet in the courtroom. Yeah, it's case number 391 on the calendar in the matter of Ham versus Barrett. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
Your last name is?
Ham.
Mr. Ham, you can have a seat, please, because you have no personal knowledge of this, even though you co-signed for your daughter for a loan on this car that's still being paid off. But she knows what's going on here. You may be impacted, but you have no first-hand knowledge. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Ham, this used to be your boyfriend.
That's right.
And you have 2 children together.
That's correct.
Your last child with him was born in 2004.
That's right.
It is your claim that he took your car without permission on the day that your last child was born, and he wrecked it.
That's right.
You want him to pay for the damage to the car because your father co-signed for the car. You're still paying off the car. The car was totaled. Is that correct?
Right, that's correct.
And the insurance company disclaimed because he did not have a driver's license.
That's right.
And Mr. Barrett says that you have to really take that up with your insurance company.
Yes.
Insurance company should not have disclaimed. But there are some facts that are sort of interesting. You say he took your car without your permission.
That's right.
I'm not sure I believe that. Not that that's necessarily dispositive of what happens here today, but I like the truth right from the beginning.
Okay.
The two of you were living together.
On and off, yes.
You were living together. You had 2 children together. You were living together.
At that time, yes.
All right. And at the time that you went to the hospital, who drove you to the hospital?
Mac.
There we go. So he had your permission to drive your car.
To the hospital.
He had your permission to drive your car.
At that point.
Now, Miss Ham, the day before he went to work, is that right?
Yes.
And how did he get to work?
His vehicle, or the vehicle he drove, which was a 95 Escort.
Didn't take your car?
No.
Never took your car?
No.
Is that right, sir?
No.
Of course it's not.
It is correct.
No.
The only 2 times he drove it was when I was in the vehicle with him. He's never taken it ever by himself prior to that date, ever.
Is that right, Mr. Barrett?
No.
Of course not. When you share a bed together, you share 2 children together, I don't believe, as I said, it's not necessarily dispositive, but I don't like fibbers.
Oh, I'm not fibbing.
I don't like fibbers. But even so, you gave him permission, you gave him the keys to take you to the hospital that day, and he drove your car. Later on, Mr. Barrett decided to take the car out again. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
How did you expect the car to get from the hospital back home?
Well, my dad arranged to watch our children because he was going to stay in the hospital the entire time and drive me home, me and the baby.
You mean he was going to stay there overnight?
Right, the entire time.
Wasn't going to go out to eat?
He wasn't going to go to work.
He wasn't going to go to work, wasn't going to go to eat,
No.
wasn't going, but so he took you. Also, don't believe that.
Well, I'm sorry. That's the point. He left me there without a car seat for my child.
Listen to me. The only problem that I have with your testimony, Miss Ham, is that I don't like when you start out not telling me the truth. And the truth is, he took the car to the hospital. He drove you to the hospital. He had your permission to take the car. He had the keys to the car with your permission, and then he took the car out again. What happened after that is his fault. But don't start out telling a judge not the whole truth, because then we begin to hold suspect everything that you say. Do you understand?
I understand.
Good. I understand that you want your money. Lying is not the way to get it.
I don't feel that I'm lying.
Well, you are. Because he had permission to drive your car, and your complaint said he had no permission. He had your permission to drive the car, and it wasn't limited to just taking you to the hospital, because when you're in labor going to the hospital, you didn't say to him, you only have permission to drive me to the hospital and drop me off there. You may not take the car out again for any other, because that doesn't work. Not when you're going to deliver a baby.
He's lying when he says he's drove my van. He never has.
I don't
he had
believe
a
that.
95 Escort that he drove.
I don't believe it. I don't believe that during the time you had the car, he didn't need the car once in a while when his car wasn't working, when his car was in repair. He drove your car, he drove you and your child in the car out for other things. When was your license suspended, sir?
8 days prior.
What was it suspended for?
A previous accident that someone had sued me, and I didn't realize that if you didn't pay a debt that was involved in an accident, it was like $500 that they could take your license in our state.
And how were you notified that they took your license?
By mail.
Who opened the mail?
I believe I did.
Did you tell Miss Ham that your license was suspended?
Yes, she knew.
No, that's not what I asked you. I said, did you tell her?
Yes, I told her.
Okay, so at the time she gave you the keys to the car to drive you to the hospital, according to you, she knew that your license was suspended.
Yes, we was trying to figure out, because I was calling from the hospital trying to figure out why they were suspended, because I still wasn't for sure why.
Okay, now we get to what's your fault. So you took her to the hospital, your baby was born. When did you decide to go drinking?
After I left work.
The next day?
No, we was at the hospital all day, and I left from the hospital. I was there all that day, and then I left from the hospital to go to work that evening.
Had the baby been born yet?
Yes.
Did you say goodbye to her?
Oh, yeah.
Right. And you only had one car at the hospital?
Yes.
Said goodbye, you looked at the baby, played coochie-coo?
Yes.
So after work, instead of going back to the hospital, you decided to go get drunk. And you got drunk, and you drove the car, and you were in an accident?
Yes.
And you spent the next 18 months in jail?
Yes.
So that answers my next question, which is why it took so long for you to get here to file your claim. But do you understand what I mean, Miss Ham, when you start out by telling a fib?
I mean, I understand.
You understand? Good. So he went to work. There's no question in my mind that he stayed with you in the hospital till the baby was born, and then he came to say goodbye, that he was going out, that he said goodbye to you, so you knew he wasn't going out by foot. You knew he was taking the car. Got it?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She didn't get you down on the floor before you left the hospital and open up your mouth, hold your nose, and pour down a bottle of Grey Goose down your throat, did she?
I prefer Absolute, but no.
And later today,
Are you both nuts? Are you really both crazy? It would never dawn on me over this kind of thing to sue a child.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kimberly Ham says the father of her children, Mac Barrett, had no driver's license when he stole her minivan and crashed it. Mac claims Kimberly gave him permission to drive it.
Now, I want you to show me proof that the insurance company disclaimed on this claim when he totaled the car. They disclaimed on the ground that you didn't have a valid driver's license.
Also, when I got home from the hospital, I had to stay at my dad's for a day because he had the only set of keys, which were mine, that had our apartment key on there, and I couldn't get into our apartment. And then I checked the mail. That's when I found the suspended license validation in the mail.
So the insurance company declined coverage, and the policyholder was you.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, your own insurance company declined your policy, sir, on the car that's in her name.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Car has to be in both your names in order for you to have an insurable interest in it. Can I see the title to the car, please?
We don't have the title. It's not paid off. I'm still making payments on it and not being able to drive it.
I'm just surprised that the insurance company allowed him to insure the car if he had no insurable interest in the car. I'm going back to my Insurance 101 in law school. Okay. Now, Mr. Barrett.
Yes.
You want to explain to me why you think that you have no responsibility with regard to this car that she's still paying off that cost $17,000?
Well, for one, I mean, I had permission to drive the vehicle.
You did. I find that you had permission to drive the vehicle. And I find that she had knowledge of the fact that you didn't have a driver's license. Neither one of those things contributed to your accident.
Okay.
You agree with that?
No.
Well, let me ask you this question, sir. Did the fact that you had a suspended driver's license cause you to have an accident?
No.
What caused you to have an accident?
Drinking.
Right. Now, she didn't get you down on the floor before you left the hospital and open up your mouth, hold your nose, and pour down a bottle of Grey Goose down your throat, did she?
I prefer Absolute, but no.
Absolute. Cute, but no cigar. She didn't do that to you, did you? You did that all by yourself?
Yes.
And that was the proximate cause of your accident. Your drinking. Not the fact that you had a suspended driver's license. You didn't have an accident, so driving her to the hospital, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So what's the proximate cause of your accident? What did the law find, sir?
Drinking and driving.
That's it. Beyond a reasonable doubt, for which you spent 18 long months in jail because it wasn't your first one. Couldn't have been your first one. Some judge was good and fed up with you. How many DUIs had you had?
One prior.
How much injury was caused to the other side and the one that you had back in 2004?
I'm not exactly for sure. They was injured.
And they weren't injured because you had a suspended driver's license, were they?
No.
They were injured because you were drunk.
Yeah.
Do you see your children?
Yes.
How often?
Every other weekend.
Do you support them?
Yes.
How much?
$140 a week.
How much do you earn?
I bring home $342 a week.
Have you made any effort to help Miss Ham and her father with regard to this debt that they incurred because of you?
No, they won't even let me see the van. I haven't even seen it. When I asked to see the van, she said it was on private property.
You have the bill to have it fixed?
It's totaled.
Can I see it?
Yes. I have pictures and then
You have a statement that indicates it's totaled?
Yes, I have the vehicle pricing and the estimate where it was done. My dad took care of that, so if you have any questions, he's the one that took care of the estimate.
Just show this to him, would you please? How many other cars did you hit?
Just one.
Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm pleased that he'll have to pay for the damage that he caused to the van.
What can I say?
I've had to pay on the van for the last 2 years. and not be able to drive it.
Didn't feel, you know, that I was fully responsible, so whatever. She's going to decide what she wants to decide.
She basically owes $12,000 on the van that she'll continue to pay on, and Mr. Barrett will have nothing. He'll have no responsibility.
I mean, it bothers me a little bit, you know, but what can you do?
I would just like to move on from this, and hopefully Mr. Barrett can do the proper thing in the future and take care of his children.
We'll work out with the children.
Oh, our kids will be perfect.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of X-Line versus Pace. Step forward.
Laurel X-Line is suing her son, 21-year-old Derek Pace, for damaging her four-wheeler. Derek claims the damage occurred due to mechanical failure.
Miss X-Line, the defendant is your son.
Yes, ma'am.
And your lawsuit claims that he came out for a visit. You live in where?
Sholo, Arizona.
And you come from?
Texas, Del Rio.
So he traveled from Texas to Arizona for a visit.
Yes, ma'am.
And when he got there, he rode a four-wheeler.
Yes, ma'am.
That you bought, and it is your claim that he broke it. You want him to pay to have it fixed.
Yes, ma'am.
Your son says that he didn't break it. It was already broken, he thinks. But certainly he didn't break it. And he's counterclaiming because he says he was so uncomfortable and it was so tense after he had this accident on the four-wheeler that he went home, and he wants you to pay the expenses for his travel round trip because he didn't have a good time, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you both nuts? Are you really both crazy?
No, ma'am, it's more about responsibility and respect. I mean, when they came back with the four-wheeler, I have MS, and I was diagnosed 3 years ago, and that four-wheeler is my lifeline. I use that four-wheeler for everything. I use it to feed my horse. I use it to water my horse.
Then you shouldn't have let him ride it. Miss X-Line, how many children do you have?
One.
You have one child that
Yes.
you're suing? I mean, I quite frankly, I don't get it. I mean, my children have taken my cars and had accidents. I had a story once, Miss X-Line. One of my children, after the car went over an embankment into a little ditch, tried to tell me that the earth opened up because of severe rain, and that's how the car slid down the side of the road. You know that child. It didn't work. I mean, the story didn't work, but I didn't sue him. I mean, and I used that car to get to work, and I really needed it as my lifeline. But it would never dawn on me over this kind of thing to sue a child.
I think it was all the attitude that was taken when it happened. Like that it was nothing, it was not his fault, it was not his responsibility. Why was I crying? It was
He
just
said it wasn't his fault.
Right.
He didn't say it wasn't his responsibility. He said it wasn't his fault. That
Well,
he
he
didn't
didn't feel like it was his responsibility either.
Because he says in his answer that he didn't do anything to cause the damage to the four-wheeler.
Well, I have photos here of when they took off on the four-wheeler, the day they took off. And I have photos of when it was taken off to the repair shop.
Well, of course, because there was an accident with it, but he said he didn't cause the accident. The accident happened as a result of a mechanical defect.
Well, I think you can look at the pictures and it will tell the story.
I don't think it's going to tell the story, madam, but I want your son to tell me what happened when you took out the four-wheeler.
Well, we took it out. We got there the night previously, and the next morning we woke up and she told us that she wanted to take her four-wheeler out and take it up in the mountains, go see the snow and all that kind of stuff. So we took it out, and we realized we were kind of running out of gas. We were trying to find the road because we'd lost our way on the way back through the mountains. And then I realized that the back wheel was you could feel the back end of the four-wheeler sliding. And I stopped to look at it, and the back wheel, the axle had broken off, and the wheel was messed up.
Is it possible that you went over a rock? Is that possible?
It's possible.
Possible you went over a log?
Possible.
Is it possible that as a result of doing that, the axle broke? It's possible.
Possible.
Sure, a lot of things are possible. Is it
If I
possible?
borrowed your car, I would fix it if I tore it up.
Well, if I borrowed your car and through no fault of my own that I knew about, that I was aware of, something happened mechanically and I was in an accident and I was injured, I would sue you. And you better have insurance on that car. So unless you have, Miss X-Line, some proof, and that would have to be by virtue of someone who was an expert in four-wheelers, that something that this young man did caused that damage.
I have a statement.
I don't take statements.
I have the photos of before and after.
I'll take a look at the photos.
This is them when they were starting out on their journey. And then that was after it was damaged. He has entirely his whole life, he's the only child, and I did not pursue my career. I was in the military for 8 years, and I did not pursue my career when I got out of the military to be at home with him and spend time with him and to be a good mother. And he was in private schools. He had the best of everything, and I think that it's time that he takes responsibility for his actions.
Miss Exline, you don't get payback from children for doing the right thing. That's what you're supposed to do as a mother. You're supposed to sacrifice and make sure that your children have things that you didn't have, make sure that they have a better education than you had. And if it involved you staying home, not having a career, that doesn't necessarily make you a better mother than somebody who works, has a career, and tries to be a good mother at the same time. So you don't get payback for whatever sacrifices you think you made for your children. I certainly would never, and certainly under these circumstances where I have no proof that this was caused by something other than a defect in the four-wheeler that happened serendipitously at the time that he drove it. And it may have been that they went over a rock, but certainly they didn't purposely do anything. He doesn't look like a nut, do anything to put themselves and his wife in harm's way. I don't know what your problem is, but I'm speaking. But your problem should not be resolved in a court. Now, Mr. Pace, if you weren't having a good time with your mother's house, you had several options. You could leave, or you could not leave. You also don't bring that sort of nonsense to a court. Courts are very busy. Certain things have to be left to be resolved within a family. This is one of them. Your case is dismissed. Goodbye.
21-year-old auto detailer Brad Soderblom is suing his former friend, 20-year-old delivery man Richard Martin Jr. for his share of damage to a hotel room. Brad says during a night of heavy drinking, Richard fell through a window.
Yeah, this is case number 493 on the calendar in the matter of Soderblom versus Martin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Oh, goodness gracious me. All right, which one of you goofballs rented this hotel room to have a party?
Yeah, this is my witness here, Your Honor.
This goofball right over there. Raise your hand. Goofball. Good.
It's me.
Perfect. And so you went into an unsuspecting hotel with a bunch of barely out of their teens goofballs, and they proceeded to wreck the place. Right?
Yes.
And now you come to court and you say, oh, yeah, you go figure it out. So I guess I have to do it because it's my job. But it's irritating. Do you understand how irritating that? Why are you smiling?
I don't know.
Well, don't. It's irritating. Okay. Where do you live?
St. Louis.
On what date did you rent this hotel room?
The night of December 23rd.
Why?
We were bored and we wanted to have something to do, I guess. We were going to play poker.
And how many people did you invite to the hotel room?
There's probably between 10 and 15 people there.
And what was the name of this hotel?
The Days Inn.
When you rented this room, who was responsible for bringing the alcohol? Raise your hand. You had to watch that in slow motion. It was really quite interesting. And what kind of alcohol did you bring?
Just Bud Light.
How much?
I had about a 12-pack or more.
12-pack or more. Did they make a 16-pack?
Yeah, it was probably a 16-pack.
Did they make a 16-pack?
No, I just called it that. I had about 12 plus 4 more.
So you had a 12-pack and you carried 4 bottles loose?
Right.
Huh. And what about you? What did you bring?
I brought a 12-pack, but I didn't finish it.
Just for you?
Yeah.
And was your 12-pack just for you?
Yes.
And what about you?
I had some beer there, too.
Did you bring any?
Yes.
Well, why didn't you raise your hand? When I said who brought alcohol, this one raised his hand right away because he's scared to death of me, which is a very good one. This one's not too sure.
I thought you were just looking at them, asking them if they brought alcohol.
No, I'm an ecumenical abuser.
I did, too.
What did you bring?
12-pack of Bud Light.
And was that just for you?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
That's better. Okay, so this is what the lawsuit is about. You rented the room on your credit card. There was some damage to the room in the amount of $360?
No, the damage total was $955. Myself and the defendant were responsible for $710. So I
You
paid...
mean responsible because you damaged $710
right,
worth?
because of our stupidity.
Yes.
And I paid him, my witness, his amount, plus the half of the $355 that he owed. because he refused to pay anything.
I wish I could figure out a way to really torture them better.
Well, you will.
You're right. Who are you?
Mary Burkhardt.
How are you related to this case?
I'm a friend of Richard's, and I was bringing him home that night.
She's the sober one that was there. The only sober one.
Who are you?
I'm DJ Felderworth.
What'd you do?
I was there at the party.
You were one of the goofballs.
Yes.
Good. Mr. Hill, I want you to describe the damage to the room that was done at the Days Inn.
There was a hole in the bathroom door, blood on the mattress.
From what?
From one of them going through the window and coming back in the room.
Yeah. Keep going.
Carpet extraction to clean the glass. Rooms got charged. Both rooms got charged because the mattress had to get replaced and the room with the window broken had to get replaced. So
you mean there were two different rooms?
The room that the window got broken in was not my room.
Whose room was that?
It was nobody's room. It was a vacant room. They were on the balcony when they were wrestling and went through a different room. It wasn't even my room, and I paid for it.
What else?
That's it. They charged for the room, the mattress, the carpet, the door, the window, an AC vent below the window, and the labor for the window.
And they had your credit card for this, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Good for you, Days Inn. What kind of work do you do?
I work at Subway.
You work at Subway?
Yes.
You know how many sandwiches you have to make for $955?
Yes.
Were you the only group staying at the Days Inn that night?
There were other guests there.
How many times did somebody call, knock at the door, and say, "Could you keep it down"?
There were no complaints. We weren't very loud.
Except when there were fights.
At the end, yes. That was at like 6 a.m.
No, we were fighting. No, there was. He wasn't even playing poker. This side was playing poker of the room. This side over here was like a party room.
Party room, what does that mean?
Like a party room, like where everybody's just standing up, drinking, having fun, and then everyone's over here wrestling while everyone over here is playing poker.
Everyone's not wrestling.
So,
I want you to describe to me what you did to cause Mr. Soderblom to sue you today for your portion of whatever he paid.
Well, we were in the wrestling.
In which room?
In the hotel room, and we were wrestling. Everybody was, not just me. And then by the end of the night, after poker, I started wrestling too. I admit that we started getting into it. I mean, we had a room and there's 2 beds, and we're roughhousing and stuff. And then I said I was going to leave at like 5 o'clock in the morning. There's only 5 people left. And then he followed me out of my room. And
he followed you out of the room?
Yeah. And
is that right so far? You followed him out of the room?
He skipped a part.
Shh. Right, he missed something, but I followed him.
I'm going to listen to the story. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And then it's good 10 or 15 feet to the next door. And then he came behind me, and I grabbed him as he pushed me, and he like pushed me through the window.
Okay, now you tell me your version of how that happened.
Okay. I'll skip all the BS he was talking about.
Excuse me?
No, about anything didn't have anything to do with how the wrestling started.
Don't forget where you are, Mr. Soderblom.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What did you do being upset and after your 12-plus pack?
We started pushing each other, and he caught the back end of the window, and then I went forward, and I got a cut on my finger as well.
And later today,
the driver was there on time, and the car was
I'm telling you, the driver was not there on time. What part of that don't you understand? Are you thick?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Brad Soderblom says former friend Richard Martin Jr. owes for damage he caused to a hotel room. Brad says a drunken Richard fell through a window.
Go ahead.
At 5 o'clock a.m., as he was leaving, I went to shake his hand. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, and he grabbed my arm and pulled me down on the ground. And then he ran out of the room thinking it was funny. I didn't think it was funny, so I chased him out, and we started arguing.
Well, you chased him out into the hall.
Right.
He was leaving.
Yes.
So the danger was gone.
Yes.
It was no longer a question if it could ever be considered self-defense. He was extricating himself from the situation.
Right.
By leaving. And you chased him outside.
Right.
Now, continue.
I followed him into the hall, and I was a little upset.
So what did you do being upset and after your 12-plus pack?
We just started arguing, and then...
Well, tell me about the argument. Were you yelling at each other?
Yes, we were yelling at each other.
At 5 o'clock in the morning?
Yes.
When the other people in the hotel was sleeping?
There wasn't anybody else on the floor.
You mean you had the whole floor? You probably emptied them out?
Yes, there was no other rooms within the area where we were at.
Go ahead.
And we started arguing, yelling at each other, and we started pushing each other. And we were locked onto each other like this. He had his arms right here, and I had my arms on his. And we were wrestling, and he caught the back end of the window, and he went back into it like that, and then I went forward, and I got a cut on my finger as well. Because if I pushed him to the window, then I wouldn't have any scars or marks on me.
You want to tell me your version of, were you sober? Did you see this? Did you see this part of what happened?
Yes.
Okay, step up. Tell me your name.
Mary Burkhardt.
All right, Mary, tell me what you saw.
We left the hotel room. From what I remember, Brad was already on the floor. And we said goodbye to everybody. We were walking out down the stairs.
Who were you walking with?
Richard.
So the two of you were walking together? Mm-hmm. You left that out. Is that true?
I don't remember her being there, right there. She was by the door.
So she was outside?
Afterwards, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
As we were walking out, we heard someone rushing up on Richard. Brad started wrestling with him, and when he grabbed him out of natural reaction, Richard grabbed him back, and they fell into the window.
Okay, good. Sit down. Mr. Soderblom, there are certain generally accepted principles of law, and one of them is that if you can say in a civil action, in a civil case, and this is a civil case, but for your actions, this incident would not have occurred, I'm comfortable in finding that he's not responsible, just you. He was leaving the room. All you had to do was, and you weren't hurt, you weren't in danger, you may have felt marginally disrespected by him. However, probably you wouldn't have felt that way if you didn't have too much to drink. Everybody was roughhousing that day. He didn't intend to hurt you. And you were not at risk in any way when you went outside and confronted him. So you caused the damage. Pay for it. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I gave the police his information, and he was contacted that morning.
The next morning, I got a DWI.
They just told us that if we didn't pay for the damages, then we would be going to jail.
I think that if they didn't drink so much and not realize what they were doing, stuff like this wouldn't happen.
It changes your state of mind. You don't realize what's going on.
Me and this guy, we always get into it when we're drunk anyway, so. And then this time it just went a little bit too far.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Young versus Elahi, step forward, please.
19-year-old bank teller Chris Young is suing limo company owner Mike Elahi for ruining his prom. Chris says the limo was too small and over an hour late.
Mr. Elahi, you own a limousine company?
Yes, ma'am.
How many cars do you have?
4.
How long have you had the company?
This company is about 2 years.
What kind of cars do you have?
I have a sedan, SUV, and Excursion and Hummer.
Mr. Young,
yes.
You, according to your complaint, hired the defendant for a prom.
Correct.
And what kind of car did you rent?
I requested, he told me he had a 18-passenger Hummer limo.
Is that what you told him you wanted?
Right, he said that's all he had left.
Did you have a contract with him?
I have the credit card statement.
Let me see it, please. What night was your prom?
It was the night of May 15th.
And when had you reserved this?
I called around the 12th, I believe it was.
Would you have been just as happy with the SUV or another car?
The whole reason we ordered the Hummer is because we had a couple extra people join our group.
What time was he supposed to arrive?
He's supposed to arrive at 6:30.
What time did the car arrive?
Around 8:15.
What kind of car arrived?
It was a 12-person excursion.
Did you call the defendant between 6:30 and 8:15?
I called the defendant at 6:30 to ask where the limo was.
And where was the limo, sir?
It was at the location.
No, he called you at 6:30, sir, asking you where the car was.
At 6:30, I don't recall that. I don't recall that.
Well, you don't recall that?
No.
Well, he does. So then you must be mistaken.
I talked to 6:45. I talked to the driver, and he was with the customer.
With what customer?
With the passengers.
These passengers?
Absolutely.
No. Sir, No. Otherwise, he wouldn't be here today. What's the name of your company?
A1 Limousine.
A1 didn't do their job that night, sir. They didn't get to his house until, according to him, at least an hour and a half late.
Well, it was an hour and a half. It wasn't late at all, ma'am. It wasn't late at all.
You don't know that at all, sir.
Yes, I talked to the driver myself.
Listen to me very carefully, Mr. Alawi.
Sure.
You can't tell me what the driver said to you. That's hearsay. Why didn't you bring the driver here?
What driver is no longer with the company. It's no
Why
longer
not?
with the company. Well, this job is about a year ago. I tried to find a driver, but
It's not a year
unfortunately I
ago.
wasn't successful.
All right, well, then
15.
you can't tell me anything, sir. I have to rely on what the plaintiff tells me. So the car was an hour and 45 minutes late.
All right, I have proof of the limo being late.
Can I see it, please? You still have this limousine company?
Yes, I do.
I would have suggested, Mr. Alawi, that what you do is to credit Mr. Young for that evening, or at least for a substantial part of it, because your company's not going to come out looking really good tonight.
Well, according to my note, I checked with
Here's
the
a
driver
letter from the Agora High School, from the principal, indicating that they received a distress telephone call from the parents of Chris Young, indicating that the limo, which had been ordered, had not arrived, and the students would miss the 9 o'clock deadline for admission. After conferring with me, the students were granted a half-hour extension of the deadline until 9:30.
Well, ma'am, they used the service. They used the service, and they were in the car before 7 o'clock. There was no way they were...
They were not! They were not in the car. Because, listen to me, the car didn't get there.
Well, they could have canceled the whole thing. Why did they use the service then? If the driver was late hour and 45 minutes, why did they use the service?
Where is A1 Limousine located?
West Los Angeles.
I wouldn't use them. Ever. When you have a company, and we're not getting to the condition of the limousine when it arrived, because I read that. When you have a company that accepts the responsibility of providing limousine service for high school kids for their prom, and you don't do the right thing, you have to be able to accept responsibility.
Absolutely, that's part of our job, you know, to be there on time.
And you did not. And if you did not, you're supposed to be able to say, we did not, and it's a cost of doing business, I'm going to refund your money.
Well, that's not true, ma'am. The driver was there on time, and the car was
I'm telling you, the driver was not there on time. What part of that don't you understand?
Well, I understand what you're saying, but
Are you thick? You have pictures of what the car looked like inside? Can I see it, please? Can I see it, please?
The pictures don't show any much of
Mr.
the
Alawi.
mess inside. But I have a witness that saw the inside of the limo.
Who is that?
Paula.
Step up, please. Tell me your name.
Paula Smith-Shamey. I'm the mother of his date. I was there through the whole waiting for the driver.
You were the mother of his date?
Yes.
That would be you. You look very pretty, by the way.
Thank you.
What time did the car arrive?
It was about an hour and a half after it was supposed to be there. And even when the limo did finally arrive, the driver would not take them. He said that he was being told that he could not drive them, or if he drove them, he wouldn't get paid. On his own, he suggested, well, I can take you down there because it's on my way back, but I can't bring you back.
Did he bring them back?
Well, after negotiating, yes, he did take them, but there wasn't enough room. The kids sat on the floor. 2 of the kids were transported by their parents, but it was still very crowded in there. One of the kids was on the floor.
Can you describe to me what the limousine looked like?
It looked like a party vehicle. It was leopard print with mirrored ceilings. There was cans on the floor. There was dirt on the carpeting inside. And it was basically...
Was this one of your regular cars, Mr. Alawi? That's the answer, yes or no. Was this one of your regular cars?
No, ma'am.
You subcontracted for this car?
That's correct.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount requested, which was $1,356.25. Mr. Alawi, I'm going to tell you something, sir. You make a big mistake as a businessman. As a businessman, you certainly don't air your dirty laundry in front of 10 million people. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Truck driver Michael Hanna is suing his ex-fiancée, housekeeper Jessica Henderson, for the return of child support. Michael also claims Jessica won't let him see his son.
All rise. Now, this is case number 514 on the calendar in the matter of Hannah versus Henderson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Hanna, you and the defendant have an on-again, off-again sort of relationship, and you have a child together. According to your complaint, you were ordered to pay child support, which you did in fact pay, which was probably being deducted from your salary.
Yes, ma'am.
And there came a time when Miss Henderson and your son moved in with you. They lived with you for 2 months. According to you, she was supposed to stop the child support. She did not, and that money was taken out of your check while she was living with you. You want that money back.
Correct.
In addition, you came home one day and found that she had moved out of the house, taken all your furniture, and according to you, took $500 with your ATM card.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Henderson says she has your permission to take the furniture and the money, and in addition, that you told her that since she was getting child support from you, she had to take care of all the child's expenses when you were living together, so that she's entitled to that. When was your son born?
January 29th, 2 years ago.
Were you living together at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you separate?
About 4 months later, I was at work, got a phone call from a friend of mine, says Jesse came out of an apartment complex, known to be one...
listen, I just asked you for a date.
Okay.
You know.
It's probably 4 months after my son was born.
Did you start to pay child support immediately?
Yes, ma'am.
That was as soon as she moved out?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when did she move back in with you?
Well, we got back together, and I was staying with her at her East 46th Street house, and she said we need to get a single house for us and the kids. So for the next 4 months, we was looking at houses. I bought a 4-bedroom house in the suburb of Cleveland, Parma. I thought everything was going good.
When she moved into the house that you bought, was she giving you any money?
She did at first. She gave me $3,000, help pay for, like insurance and stuff like that.
Just a minute. So she stayed with you for 2 months in the new house that you bought?
Yes, ma'am.
And when she stayed with you for 2 months, she gave you $3,000?
Yes, ma'am.
What did she give you the $3,000 for, sir?
It was child support money. She gave it back to me saying, here, since we was living together prior to moving into this house, that she's like, here, it's my savings, take it.
And you took it?
Yes, ma'am.
So what are you suing her now for?
Thank you.
What are you suing her now for?
She sued me back for the $3,000, but she signed a gift letter saying it was a gift, free and clear, no strings attached before I bought my house.
Just 1 second. Hold on a second. So she sued you for the $3,000?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she get it?
No, ma'am.
So now you have the $3,000?
Yes, ma'am.
So what are you suing her for?
The child support was from when we stayed together at her East 47th Street home that she continued to get while I was living with her. Under Ohio law, she was supposed to report that I was living with her at child support. She never did. Under the new agreement that I bought the new house, the child support was supposed to be dropped. The money is irrelevant. She took my kids and my life. That's the important thing. She's refused up until this week to let me see my children. I continue to pay this.
Mr. Hanna, listen to me very carefully, sir. You have to decide what court you want to be in. If you're not here over the money, because clearly, if she gave you $3,000 when you moved into the new house, and this house is in your name,
yes, ma'am,
and for moving in expenses, for the child support, for whatever, and that was her savings, that's what you just told me, she gave you her savings, I am unsympathetic with you with regard to her taking $500 out of your ATM account. So if what you're saying is that you're angry because she won't let you see your son, that's a whole different story. That's something that I can't do anything about. That's something that you have to do something about.
Legal motions have been filed in our hometown. I'm in the process of, going after joint custody with her. Tracking down where she's staying currently is another story.
Well, why do you think she's so angry with you, Mr. Hanna?
Your Honor, I come home, I work 6 days a week, I drive truck, I work 14 hours a day. I come home on a Friday night, my whole house is empty. My kids are gone. Can you picture everything you own?
One child.
No, she has another child by a previous relationship.
I understand that, but you only have one child together.
I consider hers mine, though.
Do you pay child support for her?
I give that child everything she needed.
Do you pay child support for her?
No, but I continue to give that child everything she needs. The love and a father. Ain't that the most important thing?
No, the most important thing is food. Right?
She took that, too.
The most important thing, Mr. Hanna, is food.
She took that also.
I'm asking you a question. So you don't know why she cleaned out your house. Why don't you tell him?
He knows why.
No, just a minute. He doesn't know why.
Because he was cheating on me.
Got it?
No, ma'am.
All right.
Yes.
That's what's in her head.
I know that's what's in her head. If she would stay on her psychiatric medication, things would be all right.
Excuse me, Your Honor, it's Zoloft, okay? Depression for the first time he loved me.
Shh. Now, Miss Henderson.
Yes.
Listen to me. You have a child together.
Yes.
He may not be a wonderful mate.
Correct.
But you picked him to father your child.
Correct.
You cannot decide after you have had a child with someone that you don't want them to have any input in that child's life anymore because you don't like. I'm speaking because you don't like them anymore. That's not your prerogative. And if you do that, you're doing a disservice to your son, who will one day grow up and hate you for it. May not hate you for it now because he's 2, 3 years old, but when he's 15, trust me, he will hate you for it. I've been in this business a long time, so I would not fight the issue of regular contact between this gentleman and his child.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Sure.
When the baby was 6 months old, he had left me for a 19-year-old. Got her pregnant. Now they have a 7-month-old baby together.
So?
So after I move out, he's got her move. She moves in a month after I move out.
So?
So he's got 2 different women coming to his house. He's drinking all the time. I don't need my son around that stuff.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You can be the drama lady from today until tomorrow. You do not impress me. You are not listening to what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying to you is, you're no bargain either.
And later today.
What you're annoyed about is that he moved on before you were finished with each other.
No, I'm actually more annoyed at the fact that he's slept with my best friend. Now
Well,
they're
that's
having a baby.
I would try to say it a little more delicately than you did.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michael Hanna claims ex-fiancée Jessica Henderson owes for the return of child support. Jessica says Michael cheated on her with a 19-year-old girl.
You have 2 out-of-wedlock children.
Exactly.
He's got 2 out-of-wedlock children. Sounds like a perfect match to me. What I'm telling you is, you picked him. He is the father of your son. Don't look at him. Don't look at her. He is the father of your son. You don't have the right to say, I don't want him to have anything to do with him. You don't have that right. If a judge tells you that because it's not in the child's best interest, the judge will make that decision. But I'm telling you that you don't have the right, just because you wear the mantra mother, to say this person who had fathered a child, who you lived with off and on, who this child knows as his father, you don't have the right to cut off that relationship. And you may have the right to cut off the relationship with the older child and him. That's unfortunate if he's been in that child's life for a long time. But you certainly don't have the right to cut off a relationship with his biological son. That's very stupid.
So it's all right to let my son go over there while he, you know, have sex with these 2 women at the same time, out drinking, having his other girlfriend
Miss Henderson,
taking my child to daycare.
Miss Henderson, listen to me carefully. You can be the drama lady from today until tomorrow. You do not impress me. You are not listening to what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying to you is, you're no bargain either. You've had 2 out-of-wedlock children.
Correct.
As far as I can tell, somebody else was at least marginally supporting you. I don't know who supports you now. What I'm telling you is, the 2 of you aren't bargains. However, maybe between the 2 of you, you can make one perfect parent. Maybe 50% you, 50% him. You don't have the right to tell him he can't see his son. Your case is dismissed, sir. She gave you $3,000. It's over. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm not mad. I'm just glad that she voiced her opinion about me being able to see my children.
I know his lifestyle, and, you know, I really don't want my child growing up like he did.
Judge Judy asked her who helped support her. She lives with a 72-year-old sugar daddy.
I know what goes on when the children aren't there.
Maybe if I'm living the lifestyle she accuses me of, maybe she still wants a part of it. I don't know.
He's not ready to be a father.
She'd still be in my house and still be with my kids right now. She wouldn't, you know, she'd just leave the drugs and everything else alone, you know?
He'll go his separate way and I'll go my separate way.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Rushworth versus Tripp, step forward.
Broker coordinator Sheila Rushworth is suing her ex-boyfriend. project manager Clay Tripp for breaking an apartment lease and for his share of household bills. Clay says Sheila kicked him out.
Miss Rushworth, you have 2 children, is that right?
Yes, I do.
How old are they?
14 and just turned 11.
According to your complaint, you and Mr. Tripp were in a relationship and decided to lease an apartment or a home together.
Correct.
You did so and moved in with your 2 children. There came a time when the 2 of you weren't getting along anymore. Mr. Tripp moved out of the apartment.
Yes.
There was an altercation. He moved out of the apartment, and you want him to pay his share of the remainder of the lease because you evidently had an agreement where you would each pay half the rent.
Correct, yes.
In addition, you say that he left owing some household bills and that you lost some days' pay because he filed a false restraining order against you that you had to take time to have resolved. Mr. Tripp says that you harassed him by phone after the breakup, which inspired his request for a protective order, that he owes you nothing for the rent because you had an agreement, according to him, that he can establish, and that agreement was you told him in exchange for keeping his part of the security deposit, you would take care of the rest of the rent and bills. And it wasn't until after you ascertained that he was in another relationship, a relationship where he was having a child with somebody else, that you decided that he owed you the money. That's your defense.
That's right.
When did you sign this lease, Miss Rushworth?
I had originally lived in the home for 1 year prior to signing the lease with the defendant.
How were you paying the rent at that time?
The rent at that time was at a reduced amount. It was at $1,100 a month. Once Clay moved in with us, it was then increased to $1,600 a month.
When did Mr. Tripp sign the lease?
The lease was signed by both of us on May 1st, and I have a copy of that.
And prior to May 1st of 2004, you lived there for 1 year paying the rent all by yourself.
Correct, and I have a copy of the first page of that lease as well.
Okay. You had already paid $1,100 as security deposit. There was another $500 owed. Who paid the $500?
There was an additional $500 for the security deposit that was borrowed from my parents.
Is that correct, Mr. Tripp?
Your Honor, I'll have to say that, no, I believe I put the money up for that security deposit at that time.
You have a check?
No, I don't have a check. I paid in cash. We did, however, live together in that home from July of the year previously with the knowledge of the owner, who insisted we sign the lease come the next turn of events.
Ah, I see. So you lived there for almost a year.
Almost a year.
Paying $1,100 a month rent.
Precisely, which was below market, but it was right next.
And how much did you contribute of the $1,100?
Half.
Is that right?
Yes.
Where is the father of your 2 children?
My 14-year-old's father lives in Mira Mesa.
How much child support does he pay?
He pays $335 a month.
Father of your other child?
He lives in Colorado, and he pays $300 a month.
Okay, let's get to the rent. When did you move out, sir?
I moved out December 1st.
What precipitated your moving out?
The tensions had increased over finances, and basically she told me to get out of her house in no uncertain terms.
Is that right, Miss Rushworth?
Minus a few details is correct.
So you told him to leave?
That was because he threw water at me. He threw a glass of water at me, and then after that...
So was what you're telling me, you want the rent on this house from December when he left until the end of the lease in May?
Yes.
You're not going to get it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sheila Rushworth says ex-boyfriend Clay Tripp owes for breaking an apartment lease and for household bills.
You were living there with your 2 children, so that you were 3 people. He's 1 person, and yet from the time he moved in, he paid half the bills. So, quite honestly, I don't know what you're doing here with regard to the rent.
That's exactly why we're here, because the 2 of us couldn't decide on the rent and how it should be handled. As far as the other remaining portion of it, the monthly bills that we had, household bills that we had in effect at the time he left, is all I'm asking for him to pay his share of. The SDG&E, the trash, the water, the cable.
Well, how much does that come to?
When you take off the rent, it's about $1,000.
And when he gave you money prior to you having difficulty, did he give you money by check or cash for these bills?
He would give me cash depending on the amount of his check, but for the 3 months prior to this event occurring, he was having his wages garnished by the IRS, so they would take $1,200 of his check if he only had $300 or $400 out of the check, he might give me 100 of it.
That's what happens when you play house.
Sure, that's exactly, and that's what I mean by sometimes it was more.
Then I've just resolved the issue for you, madam.
The items that he's saying he's paid.
I've just resolved the issue for you, madam. It's over. It's over. He played house for a while. It didn't work out. He does not strike me as a deadbeat. What he did was say to you, I am in effect assisting and supporting your children.
He also would work from home.
So what difference does that make?
Which facilitates...
No. Shh.
Yes, Your Honor.
That doesn't make any difference. Miss Rushworth. If he worked out of your home, that means he worked out of the home that he had before you, I assume.
Which was with me. For 6 years, we lived together.
Oh, so why are you telling me, madam, that this was a relatively recent thing?
Clay and I moved in together in September of 1999. After 2 years of living there, he left on a moment's notice. I was evicted. We got back together. He never once made up for it. He moved in with me at the apartment when I was living there because he was evicted from his place.
He didn't move in with you, madam.
I let him move in with me.
Listen.
He's been...
Miss Rushworth.
Yes.
It's over.
Yes.
The rent is over. The gas bill is over. I'm not interested in the rent and the gas bill. I'm interested in the final part of your claim, which is that he filed false allegations against you, which required you to defend a protective order.
The allegations he filed, I did not say were false. I just said he filed allegations and then didn't bother to show up at the hearing.
He's allowed to do that.
I felt
He's
just
allowed
arbitrarily
to do that.
not show up after I'm required to attend the hearing?
Absolutely. Very often people say, listen, the allegations are true, but we had a long-term relationship. All I wanted to do was stop harassing me. So I'm going to file this. I'm going to give her a wake-up call. Wake up. It's over. Don't call me anymore.
He only did that at the instance of his girlfriend. His girlfriend is the one who instigated it because the restraining order was restraining me from contacting her.
And he's filed one for every girlfriend he's had over the last 12 years.
Excuse me?
I'm sorry, but she's leaving a lot out.
Just a second. She's not leaving anything out that I require.
Okay.
So, Miss Rushworth, he's moved on. What you're annoyed about is that he moved on before you were finished with each other.
No. I'm actually more annoyed at the fact that he's, slept with my best friend. Now they're having a baby. And now they're doing all kinds of stuff. And so there's a whole lot of other issues.
I tried to say that more delicately, that he moved on with his life.
At this point, that's exactly where it comes to, and I appreciate you pointing that out.
I'm just saying that it's a little more, I would try to say it a little more delicately than you did. He moved on with his life before you were finished with your life together. And that was aggravating. You had a 6-year relationship, not just a year relationship. And I can imagine that you are really angry. Time to say, period.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
May I
and I say the same. Period.
Your Honor. May I give...
उड़े होटल तो मैंने बाट कड़ा लाई पर आने वाला के रे होटल दे नौरंग शाह ने अंदर गली है दे या जरा रोड देते वे सामने हां हूं दा उड़े मच में ओए चाचा ठीक है यार तो ईमान अपना टुर फेरी थी है यार संगा साथ को मिल आया नवीं तादी बंदे ने होंदी है भाई कहीं मिले इथां बंदा टाइम पास कर गिंदा है इवें नहीं थी ना आज वाकई ने नंगे नाली तो नहीं छोड़ दी ये भतरीजे थी नहीं ना पर ले हुन इथां आइयां बैठन या मकान बनवेंदे पन उडो में ना थकन वाला
ना वो ठीक टाइम लगा ना
इडे यो एक है अच्छा ये आना भाई आखसी एक बार बोली मैंने राह करवा है वैसे हक बनना है जाइने ना सारे ना जले आड़िया पे हो ना बंदा सारे रालते आते ना ता ठीक है लाइन जो ही आए मेन लाइन तई आए
दाई ने जेदी बोख ना लगती
हां
बड़े रातों से
ये मशीन आज में आया खड़े रहने ना अंदरों मशीन होवे से मरवावन मशीन आई पैसे भरन कतरा खर्ची पानी देवे ने कोट मार रहे सन आज पाकिस्तान दे विच पैसे ने बगैर कोई काम ही नहीं देना कोई टक्के दा बंदा ही गांव में चपड़ा सी जो मिलन में जनाब जे मैं बाल को मिलना है वो याद है खर्ची रीति में जमा पीछे में तो अंदरों आ डर कहीं नहीं मिलने वाला जो दौर चलता है हाँ मैं आज वो भी गाली मुक गए पहले या मिली यार वो भी बंदे को खवेसा खान ने खवेसा इन करवेसा वो गाली मुक बना ये मैं बस अंदर वाला निजाम भी ले बाहर बिया क्या करे हूँ काबू है जवान निकला ना पोतरी ने टुरदा फिरदा उठी है निकला बाकी जरा ये काम किदा करने बतरीजा करा हाँ यो तो लई पिया कबाड़ की दुकान पहले लई पिया जो चुंगी दे वाला खीर दी लई आ सी हाँ बैठा ही हो रहा ना अच्छा
खाने का काम कर रहा है वो एक
जरा अगले दिन तेरे को आया खड़ा
नहीं को बड़ा है
ये जरा तेरे को कल कल आया खड़ा ये कितना कौन ना काम करना
ये बहुत सब ही होंगे पर काम करता
अच्छा चलो ये हम छुट्टी दे आया बताए
शादी करनी
इंदी शादी की थी अभी ना जवान दा इखलाक आ जले तेरे को खड़ा या लाना है तेरे नाल पकड़ा जाए का अच्छा बनेगा अच्छा ब्याह एक तरह भतरीजा में रिठा में नवा नवा है कान मिल जाता कोई तो मैं आज कल लाली तेरा भतरीजा समझी पे अच्छा वो बगड़े दा पूछदा पे मैं मिल यो किदा काम करे नहीं था यूं ने वही थलदी अच्छा वाल तो ठीक है मैं आगो आ क्या है मैं मोबाइल ना जरा चाचा देख लेना बना काम में शायद मोबाइल ना करना पे हाँ शायद वाला संभला आज मौसम वाला वो जो है ना बारिश का मौसम बढ़िया खड़ा है सब पता है आज वाला बारिश का कोई यो नहीं लगता रस पोवे जोर दी पता नहीं लगता
वो ऐसे ज्यादा वो आप बाहर लेके
हाँ बिल्कुल